Welcome one, welcome all to the Albion Giants League's Savages final match. We have Tea Garden versus Purple Pandas. I'm joined today by Supersonic Blur. How you doing?
I'm not doing too bad. Just sort of come back from the gym a couple hours ago, so we got the gains there. Now we're going to see some gains here. It's going to be an interesting match. This is the Plat division, I believe, and like you said, this is Tea Garden versus Purple Pandas. This is number 1 versus number 2 seed, so expecting some fireworks here, especially with this is mid-season patch, which is still going to be the talking point, is how are these teams developing the new metas? We've seen how the pros have developed it now, but is that going to translate down here to some of the lower ranks for things?
I suspect we'll probably get something a bit more spicy potentially as a higher level play seems to try to most of the time play it safe, especially in such a big match as the finals. This match is going to be a best of 5, so even if you get down 1 or 2 games, you're not out of it quite yet. So I'm pretty interested to see exactly how these picks and bans are going to shape up. Sonic, what are you really thinking is going to be very prevalent pick-wise in the initial pick ban phase?
So I think that you hit the nail on the head with the talk about playing it sort of faster and loose, but at the same time, you've still got a lot of very simple and safe bans you can take away. Tiamat, Athena, Gilgamesh, they're still very, very strong in their own rights, and it's a safe ban. If you're not 100% sure what's strong in the meta, go with what you know is just strong. So those are all bans you can take away. Soul's been seeing a lot of pickup right now. It really comes down to as well the player preferences, how these teams want to play, whether or not with the new season they've got things that they want to prioritize. On the same idea as to what's strong that's good at banning, sometimes you go what's simple and easy to play. Like we've seen Fenrir's being picked up because it does one thing and it does it really well and it's easy to build a comp around. So there's a lot of different ways that these two teams can go. And I think with the fact that they're both the first and second seed, they're going to have some history as well. So some of those picks are going to, some of those picks and bans may be more focused regards how the enemy team plays.
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially with having not just the regular season, but also this entire tournament to kind of see
Mm.
what the teams are really leaning towards when it comes down to very important matches. What picks do they really prioritize? I know that a lot of people are thinking right now that the mid characters, like just mages in general, have been buffed heavily with the no boots patch. They can get some of their
Mm.
stacking items online. I know warlocks and Thoth have been bought more often now than before since they're actually viable. Karen's Coin, another early pickup that a lot of mages are going. What certain mages do you think have really risen to the top that may have not seen much of any play beforehand?
I mean, you talk about just the items and things. It's basically anyone who can use those items. Hell, I got to witness a Fafnir mid yesterday carry through a game. So it's that was admittedly that was collegiate level, but at the same time, it's about the items. You mentioned about a lot of the stacking items, and Baba Yaga's a big one to note on this. That the fact that you can just get the Warlock staff and you're not even as far behind if you were to pick up like the Karen's Coin or just some other flat pen items. It's a very strong look for Baba Yaga. Janus is still super, super strong just from the fact that they can still rotate incredibly quickly. Scylla's going to be up there. I personally would like to see, maybe we see with the buff, maybe we see a Hades come out. I think that the early
Ooh.
pressure could be quite fun there. But that's just personally just me. I'm a fan of the Hades, so I wouldn't mind seeing it. Although maybe that's PTSD from facing it in solo lane, where you just don't really have any answer to Hades.
Yeah, I mean, especially with how soul laners like to play, like to run at each other instead of having to escape
Mm.
the large sucking ultimate that Hades has that now reduces his cooldowns on the rest of his kits. So that definitely has boosted him up. I know you mentioned Baba Yaga earlier, and one of the mechanics that a lot of people seem to sleep on a lot is Karen's Coin does stack with the Baba
It's a
Yaga
stacking
house,
coin. Yep.
which is very I don't want to say overpowered, but it's definitely one of the most unique mechanics of that because most people just automatically put it to Warlock staff
Mm.
or Book of Thoth for normal stacking, not those limited stacking items. It's Karen's kind of like the equivalent of Rage. And can you imagine a hunter having something where he can just get his
Oh
Rage
my,
stacks
no,
online
don't, please
immediately?
don't. Please don't. We don't need hunters having this kind of crit, okay? They've decided that they just want to build a single item tree in the short bow tree, and They're having success with that. They're having fun, I think. I don't really know. They just hold down left click the whole time. But that kind of is an interesting point on the Barber, is that you're not ever punished for going these stacking items. And that's something that maybe these teams want to try and work around, especially if you do get into that sort of very scrappy, constantly fighting. It's where Barber starts to pull a little bit of a lead. Yes, you still get the stacks from kills and things, but also as well, if you're not near a wave to constantly farm that, you can still tickle up those other ones. But we've seen a lot of really interesting things come out recently. We've had the solo lane as well. Guardians have been coming back there. We've seen some solo backs being run with the Vamp Shroud. So everything's kind of all up in the air. And it really just comes down to, what are you comfortable on?
Yeah, and I mean, we can speculate as much as we really want about what is going to be rising to the top, what's going to be shown, what's going to be kind of pushed off to the side. But in order to really find out, we're going to go ahead and get into picks and bans for game number 1 here of T-Garden versus Purple Pandas. So I know we had mentioned the ADCs, the Hunter tree, really being just the bow builds now, and I feel like a lot of ADCs I've talked to this season have had a lot of issues with it being just a single, not tree, but build path. Recently, does change as different patches come up, but it's usually just one stagnant path that every ADC goes. Does that still apply, or do you think that there's still some room for variability?
You've got a couple of options that you can see. It's less so about the actual build and more the build order. Some people like to get the it's usually going to be first time Ichaival because you've got such good boxing potential. But then where do you want to go? Do you want to go ahead and grab an Executioner if you've built a heavy physical damage kind of comp? Do you want to go ahead and get Odibo? We've seen some variations on this kind of build. We've seen RCs come in as well. There's a lot of options, and you can still run the sort of the Transcendence with the Bluestone Pendant. You go Transcendence into an RC, and you've then still got some play around with the build. So it's not 100% in terms of you must build this path. It's just how you then play around with those builds. If you're going for that all short bow build, then once you get the Ichaival, you want to start getting pressure. You want to start boxing if the opponent doesn't have it. Or maybe you start looking to try and transition to just high, maybe a kin size comes in. There's still a lot of options for the teams. It's just how they then mesh with that.
Yeah, and that will be definitely interesting to see what certain ADCs decide to go to try to stick with that more ability-based Transcendence build or go the newer bow build. But the first bans are now coming out for T-Garden and Purple Pandas. T-Garden taking out Raijin, mage that's been either banned or picked pretty heavily, not exactly rising all the way to the top in the meta, but still been very strong, so that makes sense why that's taken care of. Purple Pandas responding in kind with a set. Again, just another strong jungler that can dive very well if you can't handle that. The Nemesis being banned, though, by T-Gardens, that's an interesting ban, because I personally feel like Nemesis has a lot of counter picks that you can play into her. Is she just risen with the new meta changes, or what's really causing this prioritized ban?
It's a little bit of how the junglers are itemizing. Stonecutting Sword, first item, is absolutely fantastic. Nemesis is a brilliant tank shredder towards the late game. Mannequin Scepter, seeing a buff for the jungle, means that if you do want to just hard jungle clear, then you've got that option. But I do agree with you. I think that the Nemesis ban may be one of those, we know Purple Pandas play this really well. That was a tongue twister. Purple Pandas play. Try saying that 3 times fast. But no, going on to the same idea, a lot of these bans here, you've got Raijin, Sol, Set. All of these are gods who single-handedly can carry games and snowball leads with a lot of pressure. So in some, I don't want to say it's just lower divisions, but in some instances, you can get to a point where you just have one problem player pop off, and that's just how the game ends up going. So getting rid of some of these difficult to deal with their momentum characters is very useful. Tiamat, another fantastic example. If Tiamat just gets to do whatever they want, you're ending up in some serious issues. Though Gilgamesh is available, and that's a very strong god across the board, flex potential into 3 roles, and fantastic teamfight capabilities. I wouldn't be surprised if T-Gardens don't at least consider the Gilgamesh here.
T-Gardens with the first pick. That might have been why they banned the Nemesis. Not only did they do some scouting to kind of know that maybe they play it, but also opening up that slot, forcing them to either ban out the Tiamat or the Gilgamesh. They picked the Tiamat understandably so. Tiamat's a hell to deal with, especially late game with her lane minions still. But Gilgamesh does get locked in for Tea Gardens. You mentioned that it can be flexed between 3 roles. That's support, solo, jungle most of the time. Is there anything you would really think that would be just off the cuff what you would really think a top pick would really fit into? Do you think they just picked it for the threat of the flex?
I think most of the time we usually see it towards the jungle just because with the abilities of roam, you're able to start making the most use of the passive early on. It can go solo if you find that the matchup ends up working better. Again, this is the benefit of that flex pick is we see what purple pandas are picking up, and if it's something that you can fight into in the jungle, you go, okay, well, we'll just get a different solo lane. If not, you flip the script there. But the Ymir Chiron, this is probably the most pressure duo lane I can think of.
It's a kill lane.
That's
kill lane
assuming
all day.
as well, this Chiron is going into the duo lane. I'd be hard-pressed to put it in the mid. You can if you want, but again, with the soul taken off the table, Ymir Chiron, super heavy poke pressure, super heavy early presence. That's going to be very difficult for the guns to go for, especially if they do lock in a Fafnir. That is a... Well, I've seen some Fafnirs played. I don't think this one's going mid, though, especially with the hover of Scylla.
Yeah, I hope not, unless it's getting really freaky. We have like a Scylla jungle or Scylla ADC. A Scylla ADC might pop off the Polynomicon follow-up off of the Sikkim Crush combo. But the Fafnir now kind of taking off one of the potential roles that Gilgamesh could go into. Now we're left with jungle or solo, unless it's something weird going on with Tea Garden. Chiron, though, was another one of those picks that you had mentioned that goes the Bluestone Transcendence build, and that doesn't really fit with the current bow build too much. So I'm really interested to see how the old meta and old build path with how Chiron was very popular and strong with that goes against maybe one of those more bow-focused builds. As we see Kukulkan being picked up to round out the first phase of picks for Purple Pandas. If you're still sitting here on Tea Gardens and you're debating between jungle or solo for Gilgamesh here, with the lock-in of Kukulkan, what are you really thinking of that lane matchup goes in the solo lane?
Solo's a tricky one. It should favor... that's a really tricky one. I've not had a lot of experience on the Kukulkan versus Gilgamesh lane, but at the same time, Gilgamesh, they kind of have that idea of they want to just keep fighting and fighting and fighting, and Kukulkan does the exact same. So this lane almost becomes a game of chicken. Who's going to back down first? And whoever does usually ends up having a slightly worse time for it. The Kukulkan has a lot of potential to keep that going, some great anti-heal to stop kind of the the pot healing going through, but Gilgamesh wave clear all in all isn't too bad either. So that one's might come down to jungle influence or other influence across the map. I would expect that either of these two, we expect the Kukulkan lane, but if Gilgamesh does go into the solo, I feel like both of these two want to get out of that lane and start making big influence into the mid as soon as possible. So their goal for the lane is just make sure that it's as difficult as possible for the other to have that kind of an impact. But as for the ban side of things, a Wheelish is a very strange one, but all three of Tea Gardens do currently have leaps of some description, including the Scylla, even underground. So it's not the worst takeaway off the table. Kali, I don't mind. Kali is a pick that I think is slightly slept on in the new meta, but at the same time is definitely ban worthy. The fact that you've got stone cutting sorted to kin size is absolutely disgusting and devastating. And Kali as a late game monster, just shredding through the rest of the team. I am concerned at how Purple Pandas seem to be very much just, we do this the early game. If we lose, if we aren't winning by 20 minutes, we're losing in 27 minutes. This is a very early game draft that needs something late to try and help it out here. The Janus will help, and I think that's something, but they're just waiting on that jungler. So maybe we see like Bakasura or some kind of late game jungler to help here.
Yeah, definitely with those later game junglers that can ramp up as the game goes on. Because Giannis, his damage does hit very hard throughout the game, but notoriously, especially against frontliners, the Giannis isn't the best at taking down the front line, usually kind of playing almost like a mobile second jungler going to the back, trying to blow up one of the squishies and get back to his own back line. We see Cirquet being picked up by T-Garden, as far as we could tell by this draft, again, unless something funky is going on, that should be going into the jungle, which offers a lot of CC for the setup for the Scylla and on her now follow-up. I feel like T-Garden just has a stronger team fight presence than Purple Pandas right now. How do you... Oh, and you mentioned a late-game jungler. Mercury being hovered. That definitely fits that.
It really does, and I think to sort of follow on from your question is how do Purple Pandas respond to this? This Mercury feels like not too bad an option when it comes to the team fights. You need someone who can get into the back line and just delete some members. You've got a very solid core for T-Gardens. Their team fight looks phenomenal coming into this. So much CC, like you mentioned, from the Circuit. The early bullying potential when it comes to the Onher versus the Chiron. It's going to come down to builds. I'm expecting an Ikival build coming out from this Onher to try and really hammer home this early pressure. But in terms of how the team fights are going to go, I think T-Gardens are more happy to take a standard team fight. There's 5 of us, there's 5 of you. Let's just fight it out. Whereas Purple Pandas need to be a little bit more patient, try and find some of those pick potentials, use that Giannis mobility to start the initiations themselves, or else things can get a little bit off kilter for them here.
That is definitely a very fair point with that. Maybe looking for some picks off of for Purple Pandas instead of just trying to get that 5v5, get a number advantage ahead of time. So if you were a betting man and you had to pick one comp over the other here, what team are you really leaning towards being able to come off on top in game 1?
I think for the just safety net of what T-Gardens have, I like their draft a little bit more. It's got a little bit of everything, which in some regards is great. You can do everything, but in other regards, it means you don't excel at anything. Purple Pandas have said, we want to win this early. We've got a fullback of Mercury late game. If this game gets to sort of that 25-minute mark and we don't see a massive lead for Purple Pandas, I'm concerned. So my money goes to T-Garden for game 1.
All right, well, that's Supersonic Blur's bet on it. Personally, I think that's pretty even, but I am also leaning towards T-Garden's team fight comp. It really is going to just depend on if Purple Pandas can get that early lead, but we can only speculate as much as we can. But for now, we're going to go ahead and jump into game number 1 with Vengeance and Bastion. Take it away, guys.
Thank you guys on the desk. And Bastion, number 1 and 2 seed, fighting each other from our Savages division. We already see the Fighters mask coming out. Both teams opting for it this time around. We've seen a little bit of difference here recently, but not this time around.
Fighters mask used pretty well by both of these solo laners, so no surprise to see that one come out. And really, these relic pickups and starter pickups, pretty standard across. We have some Sunder sprinkled in, still a great item, especially on Fafnir. If you can utilize that hammer into a Sunder, you can look for that early pressure even into a Ymir Chiron, simply because that Ymir, despite all the pressure it brings, is pretty stationary. So we'll see how this shakes out in the duo lane. Both sides have some pressure they can utilize.
Oh, one thing I want to talk about is this early start already coming out of Purple Pandas. Chicken at the green buff first, then rotating over towards his speed. And it looks like it's only to do a little bit of damage, or maybe just do the back harpies as well, because it looks like that buff is still standing.
A little bit different of a start here, and typically we don't see the green buff done early on. It's typically done on the back and then coming back through for supports. It just makes a little bit more sense flow wise. Could be looking for a little bit of extra farm that does slow down getting the speed buff and slows down getting to this mid lane, as we see Circuit's already there. However, it hasn't made a big difference since the Purple Pandas mid laner is playing back some. Not going to get caught out to that early Circuit pressure, but pressure in the duo lane.
See a nice little bit of damage coming onto Necrogue, but nothing's going to come of it, as both duo lane members of T-Garden were able to find themselves safety under their tier 1 tower. Over in mid lane, the left Harpies contested over, but not going to successfully be done so by Sanders. He's gonna have to give those up. And back in duo lane, we see a little bit of hammer stun, but that's for the clear. Oracle's also gonna go the way of T-Garden early on. But a possible gank coming out from Chicken over onto the solo side. Fury. The dash comes out, but the beads is used to make sure he can leap right back under tower. He will be safe for now. Back over and do it. We do see that these guys are trying to dance around the best they can, get vision as well. And these mini harpies being taken down already by each team, just finding that little bit of form that they can. And as you mentioned, that was definitely great freeze. The wall good as well, but the leap over, giving Necrogue some safety. And unfortunate, I think Steve really wanted to find truce there, but unable to do so. We see a little bit of a jungle battle. The taunt coming out, and is unable to continue fighting as the rotation from Horrific spotted out by Fury. So there's going to be still nothing happening. Both these teams, they're trying to find that first pick, but having to still play it a little bit slower.
Interesting to see Mercury trying to get so involved early on, and it's a good thing, but doesn't typically win a lot of 1v1s into the Circuit. Circuit more of that early game bully, and really with this Mercury pick, you are trying to do what the Des mentioned, fill in that late game gap. Of course, you have the utility early on, the ultimate, that dash to pull somebody into the team, strip out some beads, which set up really well for this Ymir. Also for the portals out of the Giannis, so there is that nice utility factor even when you don't have the one-shot Mercury online, but you do definitely want to get this farm going early on so you can get to that late game and get to the strength of the jungler a lot quicker, and that's what I'd like to see coming out of this Purple Pandas jungler. Right now, we haven't seen as much focus on farm. Tried to get a little cheeky over there in that solo lane and get the gank, and you got the beads out, but try to prioritize getting to that point where you're the strongest.
Right, neutral harpies going to be taken down by Purple Panda's jungle and mid laner. A bit of an early startup, and mid lane's going to be pressured up, but the rotation's more than enough in time, and even a little bit of damage coming out onto Biz as he's taking a little bit of poke, staying too close to his own wave, trying to auto those back sides. But we do see Chicken trying to secure the harpies. He does manage to get one. Second one's going to have to be left alone for now. The wave's coming back in. Mid laner's going to want to take care of this first over in the do lane. Doing the mini harpy. Wave pressure is going to be applied. A possible kill opportunity here as well, but the pillar more than enough to slow down Steve here. Over in the solo lane, the first blood comes out 4 minutes in. Horrific taking down Fury with the rage transformation coming through. Not even burning the ultimate in this form. Able to take him down quickly. But we do see a possible gank over on this left-hand side. Chicken with the ultimate just lining up. But because they're sitting so far back under tower, he's not going to find anything. We're at 12 gauge. Seem to have nearly spotted him. So this could be a counter gank coming through. It's only Necrogue, however, in the lane. So this is going to be a little bit of a rougher gank without Truce here.
We'll see if they're able to get there. The Fafnir coming through the jungle, but this trap might be sprung here. Circuit still dancing around this rock formation, not ready to commit, and it looks like they're going to call off the gank. Not having the support there makes it a little bit more difficult, as you mentioned. Now, while we're in the duo lane, we might as well talk about these builds, and we see 2 different builds coming out here. Not so much of that bow combination we've seen, but hold on, gank coming through now.
12 gauge is called back as Truce makes it to lane. The Desert Fury coming through, and at the end is enough to find Steve. Seagarden finally put themselves on the board, but the through space and time shows a warning of more coming to this lane. So all 3 members from Seagarden will back off quickly, find themselves safely on their own side of the jungle, while Purple Pandas going to find themselves a little bit of farm in the Oracles instead of committing to the gank. Red buff taken away by Viz for his own side, securing any farm just in case. And really, this game, no matter how many times they're looking for fights or picks, it's being played fairly slow overall.
Has been a slower paced game. Now that works out pretty well for Teagarden because you get the pick and you get the Giannis ultimate out, which it's not going to take forever for that to come back up. Of course, already has a little bit of cooldown that they're working on in this build. It's nice though that you won't have that additional rotation to keep in mind if you're wanting to look for something. It looks like these teams are on the hunt in the jungle.
Well, we do see a successful speed invade coming from Purple Pandas, and it rotates into a gank onto this solo side. In comes Horrific to try help, but the rotation has gone from Fury above the Fire Giant pit and around, so they're not going to be able to keep chasing him down. Over in mid, there's an attempt to get something, but the Purple Pandas mid and support back off in time. 12 gauge unable to find any of the CC he was looking for. Both teams back to resetting, and over the left side we do see a little bit of a wave pressure being applied as Shark did have to back get his Transcendence online. The back from Necro allows Devo's Gauntlet to come on up. And back over in this solo side, we see Fury still struggling against this Kukulin. That at level and a half, 2 level disadvantage, and his health is showing the result of that difference. Trying to find any farm he can in the meantime. But over in mid, we see a possible 3-man through space and time comes through, misses the mark. Secondary damage off the mark as well through the monster is going to be popped, however, just to make sure he gets out from that wall. Well placed by Steve. So ult for ult trade in mid overall, and now a gank over in dual lane coming from 12 gauge. The ultimate expended as well, trying to see if he can find anything, but underneath is Chicken and Steve. They want to find whatever pressure they can. Opportunities there, but the leap, the freeze at the end forces the beads, and in from behind is Truce with the hammer. And this is going to lead to another disengage. It is going to be a disengage because Chicken wisely decides to dash out instead of trying to take the fight.
However, there is going to be a fight over here on the solo side. Wins the Shamash thrown down, and it does buy a little bit of time, able to jump over, but no tower there for him. Should mean they're able to pick this one up, and they finally get it. Over in the mid lane, though, it looks like Scylla was able to pop one for themselves, so trade out pretty even all the same. And that might even favor just a little bit more for that T-Garden team. We'll see what they're able to do, and a red buff invade on the backside is certainly going to give them a little bit more value.
Value is good, but all the Scorpions still standing, so there are no objectives to claim on either side of the map. He seems being very careful about when they want to do those. We're gonna just have to be patient as we see a nice little pillar stun combo coming out from Necrogue there, but the dash in from Shark sends him leaping away, not wanting to risk the fight this early on. That Transcendence power, definitely something he's got to be wary of with the blue stone. Back in mid, left neutrals being done by Purple Pandas, rotating over to Oracles. So it is, we'll claim the right neutrals instead. And this isn't just Oracles, this is also going to be the Greater Scorpion on the Gold Fury side of the map. So Steve will take this opportunity to rotate over to Duo, but Necrogue still playing far enough back, pure safety for him. Something we also have to talk about is this new left-hand side jungle. A little bit of extra farm opportunity for these ADCs is that mini objective still stands. Something that they are not trying to do as of yet.
Typically a little bit more of a mid-game to later game look, because it does give you that amplified defense on your towers and on your Phoenixes. You certainly want it if you are on the back foot. That Draugr it is on the left side of the map. But speaking about on the back foot, could be after this gank if Serket looks for it. Is sitting in the jungle, hasn't gone for it just yet. Is Chiron trying to get the back out in mid lane. Pressure still applied, but in the meantime, it looks like they're going to give up the ghost on the left side. However, Invade coming out on this right side, and that's going to allow Kukulin to now have a 3-level lead. And looking at this gold, most of that advantage is on this Kukulin, but it's reaching to about 3,000, 2.5 right now, and that can start to get into dangerous territory.
Gold Fury is standing up now as the Greater Scorpion Fire Giant side is being taken down by Purple Pandas. This is only going to help their gold lead even more after the invade. There's only one tower down so far over in that solo side across the map. And Purple Pandas, they're looking for any advantage they can. The kills, they're even across the board. However, the two are stacked on Horrific, as you mentioned, which is 2.5 level, lead almost 3. But the gold, about 2,500 to 3,000 in their favor as well. This isn't something T-Garden want to be stuck in. They do have a bit more of a later game comp than Purple Pandas, but we're going to have to see how if they're even able to get there as the Rage transformation abilities are coming through. Even the ultimate is just off the mark, though, thanks to the leap from Fury trying to dance around himself. However, this does mean a possible rotation. It looks like that's something Horrific is going to be looking at. He sees the Serket roaming around, but Viz is going to find Chicken getting caught out by Truce. The taunt onto Horrific coming in. The dragon transformation as well. Isn't going to find anyone within it, but on the monster comes out. Pop, which is Shamash combined, and Fury will find the finishing blow onto Horrific. Over in the dual lane, beads are forced. The wall goes up after the leap comes down. The ultimate as well from Steve, and in comes... Oh, that was close. Sanders wanted to get that one, but Muscle Shark able to secure it first. That is the first kill over on the duo side between the two hunters. The Pyromancer has been taken down. Gold Fury, the only other early objective available at the moment.
Really big fight there for T-Garden to pick up the solo laner who had most of this advantage on them. And one level the difference now as well as the Pyromancer could catch out the Ymir here as Thunder's being used. Wants to chase this one out. They will pick up the kill. Gold Fury's still up, as you mentioned, but not looking there just yet. Maybe not favoring it with the Scylla ult, not available. And of course, Purple Pandas are on this side of the map, fairly close if they want to contest, so that will be all she wrote there. But look at this gold lead. It started to drop just a little bit. We're down to about 1,500 now instead. The XP difference not as big as most of it was on that Cucullin having that 3-level lead. And without that there for them, Purple Pandas are not in as good of a spot as they were.
No, these last few kills have definitely costed them much more, especially with the Pyromancer going in favor of T-Garden. They are definitely looking for more opportunities, and with Viz having level 13, 2-0-2, the mid laner for T-Garden, things are starting to look worse and worse for Purple Pandas as the composition for T-Garden coming online fairly soon, and it's starting to show slowly and surely, especially after that fight.
And this comp from T-Garden is just really focused on these team fights. It does really well having both this Fafnir to initiate, the Gilgamesh, a really good initiator, and then Serket to clean up a lot of these backliners. Does so well of getting in there, dropping the Cobra's Kiss, as well as the Last Breath is a lot of burst damage. They have a nice utility and tools just to fight around that, and the objectives really with the Scylla secure, so that's what they're looking to do. On the other side, Purple Pandas, of course, have this pick draft. We just haven't seen them be able to utilize it as well as they'd like and get some of these Giannis rotations early.
Oh, these rotations so far. The only thing I do want to mention about these early rotations is that 12 Gauge did a lot of sitting around at a couple times when he was waiting for a possible dual lane gank. Speaking of dual lane ganks, in comes Sanders with 3 space and time, does manage to hit and land. And in comes Chicken himself, but the tower damage is there. Sanders will come through, clean that one up. The aggression not able to find Chicken. However, he may be caught out of position. Viz is trying to find weekend the blink under tower.
Oh no!
The tower that gets him no kill for the way of T-Garden, but Steve finds 12 Gauge instead. Jungler for T-Garden falling to support. And now Horrific on that backline, forcing beads. The ultimate coming out from Shark. He wants to find anything he can. I'm a monster being popped. Just in case, more defensively. That it is for counter aggression. And they're actually going to search forward. Fury popping those winds of Smaj. Steve's going to use the wall, keep him out as best he can. Portal is dropped. Fury is 1 HP and a Dream. Horrific there to clean him up. And this has not gone well for T-Garden at all. 3 for none so far. Unless you want to count that turret kill as a 3 for 1, but that credit did not go to T-Garden in any way. The remaining couple members that are near this fight going to leap out. However, Purple Pandas, the pressure that was applied there to them defense the Gold Fury.
Well, we talked about having rotations of this Giannis, and we got it on the left side. Picks up a nice kill, and unfortunate there for the jungler. Chicken just can't get out on the backside, trapped. At least, though, the kill does go to the tower, so no bragging rights there for T-Garden. They did, however, do enough to get them off of this Gold Fury with that still standing. The Fafnir, pretty menacing still at this part in the game with that transformation, does get them off the objective. Now, Purple Pandas are looking a lot better, actually having a pretty large lead for themselves at 3K now. Would like to see them try to look at this left side again. This Anhur has just not been able to position well enough to be menacing and has just been caught on these rotations. We'll see if they're able to look that way again. Giving this Chiron a little bit of a lead is certainly something you want.
Oh, speaking of a lead, in comes Horrific, trying to find some damage onto Viz, who manages to get away just in time. Purple Panda's rotating back towards this Gold Furious Fury himself is going to try pushing up the solo lane side in the meantime. And this objective will be started up. No one from T-Garden close enough as of yet, but in they start to come. Truth's going to be the first one on the scene. Horrific zoning him off. The Desert Fury, however, is available on the corner. One monster popped is not in time. Purple Pandas secure. Horrific, Sanders, and Steve all using their ultimates at some point just to make sure that it goes through. However, Horrific, he's going to use the portal from through space and time, get himself far enough away from T-Garden, maybe even find himself an invade here. He's a little too weary of the rotation coming in from 12 Gauge, who manages to leap over, find him. The taunt is good. The ultimate as well. Here comes Fury. The winds of Shamash is pop. He's going to find all the damage they possibly can, and Fury will find the kill. Now we do see... Oh, this just does not look good. Steve, he's caught out, but the wall's good. Shark will find the solo on Necrog over in the duo lane. However, Steve is still being chased. The attempt of the drop kick not there, but Viz will finally clean the support up. And oh my chicken, did not get caught in a good spot. Blinks coming out from both the jungle and solo lane of each team. And there will be no more aggression towards the jungler of Purple Pandas. And Passion, he nearly got punished for that.
Could have been a scary moment there for Chicken. Now, Purple Pandas get the objective, but they just kind of give some free value back to T-Garden, picking up 2 kills on the backside of that maybe didn't have to happen, you could argue. Certainly the Ymir kill, you just sometimes have to let the homies go, wave at him a little bit, and just say, sayonara, I'll see you around in a little bit. But trying to get him out ends up sacrificing their life as well. Now, the good side for Purple Pandas is not only do you get the Gold Fury on the left side of the map, you also pick up the kill onto the Honor on the backside, giving a 2-level lead to this Chiron and some extra pressure over here on the duo side. Could look at this T1, which is barely hanging on for its life, and then try to pressure down the side a little bit more to open things up and open up some rotations over to this Pyromancer and Fire Giant for the Chiron.
One thing I do want to talk about is both mid laners for these teams are simply 0 deaths, speaking well to their positioning in these fights, and positioning not so well for 12 Gauge, getting completely caught out, uses his ultimate to try to get some CC, but the through space in time there to clean up the kill. Horrific will fall to Fury off of the leap. However, the Dragon transformation from Truce sends the rest of Purple Pandas running back. However, here comes Shark trying to find his way towards his team. Gonna go towards the Fire Giant pit and start up this Pyromancer, where his teammates will begin to rejoin him, setting up a little possible counter engage, but that objective is too far gone. Purple Panda secure it fairly easily. T-Garden unable to contest. But Fury's decided he wants to go in, try and find Chicken, but with the dash throw away, he's unable to continue the chase. Instead, they're gonna find any other member they can.
Looking for the chase, but so far it looks like Purple Pandas are going to have a pretty clean disengage as long as the Ymir doesn't get caught on the backside of this Fafnir, doing some back camps, but the tower will fall, so that's T-Garden getting a little bit of extra XP and gold for themselves. Nobody looking at this Fire Giant just yet, but we're hitting that 20-minute mark, so it likely won't be too far behind, and both of these teams are certainly in this game and could look for this objective. You have great secure of the Scylla, but you also have great burn on the other side for Purple Pandas if they want to be the ones that look at it with this Mercury acting as essentially another hunter with crit on this objective.
Mercury, one of the more famous smite gods for his usage of crit and the power that he brings along with it. And one thing we do have to mention for T-Garden, they have no more tier 1 standing 20 minutes in. Gold lead sitting around 5k for Purple Pandas, and the itemization does show in the differences between each lane. Jungle especially having a little bit of an item advantage there. But over on this left side, we do see Chicken is going to take down the jungle objective very quickly. And just take away that opportunity for Necro, who took it down the last time it was standing. The rest of T-Garden, they're going to be on this right-hand side just in case someone from Purple Panda decides they're going to start this Fire Giant. They do understand they want to contest this, but it's not EFG, so it's not the end of the world to let it go.
No, it's not. But realistically, they do have a good chance of stealing it away. So we'll see if they decide to give it up. Would likely try to contest it at least a little bit. You certainly don't want to go into a bad team fight, though, and then you all wipe around this Fire Giant. And then at that point, they don't even necessarily need to get the Fire Giant to take away a Phoenix from you. So we'll see how they try to handle this. Grouping on the right side, though, from both teams, it looks like they want to contest.
Fury immediately starts off with a dropkick onto Horrific, stunning him for quite some time. Takes a good bit of poke damage, but is managing to be able to walk away fairly easily with no real risk to falling as well with his team's grouping. So now this Fire Giant dance has somewhat begun. Both teams going back and forth, up and down. But with Fury leading the charge, Steve's going to be the one who stays up the furthest, allowing the rest of his teammates to get further and further back, provide a little bit of peel and damage as well. Now, both teams just resetting. T-Garden, they've managed to easily take away the positional advantage from Purple Pandas off the back of Fury, but the freeze comes in. The crush does quite a bit of damage to members Purple Pandas, but in goes Horrific, trying to find the backline the best he can. True sleeps out, trying to find any positioning to help get some peel in. He does land the hammer onto Horrific. The crush hits him as well, but not much damage there. Leap over the wall from Steve, and we see that this team, Purple Pandas, they are ignoring these tanks, going straight for the backline as best they can, but they're unable to find any kind of lockdown, and putting even their own selves at risk is Chicken. He's kind of out of position here on the right side.
Looking for the chase out as Fafnir ultimate is going to be used. We'll see who they engage on. It looks like it's going to be Ymir. Cobra's Kiss used as well as the last breath. A decent wall, but it's not going to be good enough as 12 gauge picks that one up.
They continue the fight going on. We see Fury trying to 1v3 within his own ultimate, and going out is Chicken, but Necrogue is there to clean him up. Through space and time comes through, unable to clean anyone up. Fury, however, will find Horrific instead. Ultimates being used, none left on the side of Purple Pandas. However, there are two on the side of T-Garden, and instead of continuing to chase, it looks like Fire Giant will be the call. I'm a Monster, the best secure on the map, available right now. Space and time still down, so this is not an easy contest for Purple Pandas.
Good choice by T-Garden to look at this objective. They should be able to get it for themselves pretty easily and might not even need the I'm a Monster. Could just secure it with the crush, but I'm a Monster going to be used to make sure that they get that one for themselves. Really nice fight there. We're able to re-engage off the backside of Purple Pandas, just trying so hard to get to this Scylla, to get to this on her, and they were not able to do so successfully. And then 12 gauge finds the Ymir in the back with the Fafnir. They're just able to lock him down, take him out, and then suddenly this Purple Panda squad doesn't have that tanky front line to protect them the way that they want, and they're able to get this objective away, strip away some additional farms. So we'll see what T-Garden are able to do on this left side. Likely want to head that way with the T1 up. T1 in mid, however, also up. So there are two different ways they could look at this one, but left side typically the most valuable to get down just because it is across from that Fire Giant.
Oni Fury does stand as well. In the meantime, Necrogue may have found Sanders, but Sanders able to get away just in time. So we do see Chicken's going to go ahead and start up Firemancer, and with that crit, we see it fall very quickly. However, Oni Fury is being started by T-Garden. While the dual lane members have decided to sit on that Draugr, this Fury does fall. Through space and time comes through, does manage to clip the jungler of T-Garden, finding himself around half health as a result. Fury trying not to get cut out. He's going to leap over members, stay away from the wall as well. And they may even be looking for a re-engage here. Instead, they're going to go back towards the tier 1, push these waves the best they can, and allow this to fall. On this right side, though, Jungler and Solo are going to be pushing up a tier 2 tower, so it looks like this may be a tier 2 trade across the board. And with a 5v3, Purple Pandas has zero chance of defending this tower. They're going to have to let it go absolutely free. Horrific has decided he's going to back. With about 2 waves going to end up under this tier 2 on the right side. This tower is going to fall. T-Garden, they're not pushing the Phoenix, however. They're going to rotate towards this mid side to try and most likely take this tier 1 and 2. Well, they just let Chicken farm up. And he's actually taking quite a bit of damage. The tower has gotten some on him. It's going to be a little bit risky for him to continue going forward if anyone backs. And it looks like it's going to be 12 gauge who does exactly that, prompting Chicken from the call out to do himself. Tier 2 in mid falls, no contestation there. They're going to rotate to the right, tier 2, see if they can find an opportunity to get that or some picks. And Bastion, this has been a very clean Fire Giant so far.
I've been able to get a lot of towers down, which is a lot of gold for them, and we've seen the difference for Purple Panda shrink a lot as T-Garden have been able to claw their way back into it. Pretty heads up, though, for Chicken to go ahead and get the right side T2, because likely you're not looking to defend those just outright anyways, so it does give them some extra farm for them. Also opens up this right side Phoenix so that if they do get picks, they can get to this Phoenix a lot easier and try to do something with that, and that's a benefit to having this Mercury. Not only is it a late game monster, you can also looking at splitting up onto different targets and then kind of try to work those down. You can do the famous 4-1 split that we see a lot of in ults across. We'll see if they get to that point, though. Right at the moment, they are on the back foot with T-Garden, evening things up a lot for them. They have Fire Giant for a little bit longer, could look to try to get down this right side, and we'll see if that's their next target.
It'll be interesting. Fire Giant going to be falling off here soon for T-Garden. If they want to find anything with it, they need to act fast. Otherwise, the best they're going to be able to do is set up around this Fire Giant, get ward vision advantage as well, and make sure Purple Pandas are not able to come near them as they're trying to do it. Meantime, Truce, he has found one, leaps in, tries to find something, and the drop kick will find the stun into the corner of the wall. We see nothing else coming out so far. Perfect is going to use the ultimate, knock a few members up, a little bit of damage coming in from Sanders as well. Seaguard going to back off, unable to find a pick they were looking for, but Truce just leaps in under the tier 2. His team, it seems they're not even trying for the Fire Giant at the moment. They want to get this tier 2. No one from Purple Panda is here. Even the Frenzy will be popped. This tower is going to fall absolutely free. A little surprising from Purple Pandas to just, with no Fire Giant on them, to give that up to T-Garden.
Missed opportunity there to at least try a soft defense. Not sure the frenzy was necessarily needed, though, as it looked like Purple Pandas were just going to give it up anyways. And then you don't have that if there is a fight that happens right away. With Fire Giant not too far out, frenzy may not be up in time for them to use it in the next team fight. So we'll see how that one shakes out for them. Purple Pandas should be able to group up around this, try to go ahead and get some advanced warding with T-Garden having some members backed. We'll see if they're able to do that for themselves. They certainly can contest this Fire Giant. Despite the fact that T-Garden have closed out this gap a little bit, they are still in the gold lead, though it's not really anything to write home about at this point in the game. We are getting that 30-minute mark where even when you do have a more sizable gold lead, it's not quite as important as a lot of members are starting to get that 6th item online.
Later game goes, the gap starts shrinking as well. No towers standing for Purple Pandas. They still manage to hang on to their goal lead, even if only by a few hundred at this point. T-Garden, they do have the kill advantage and structure advantage. We're 29 minutes in, this Fire Giant sitting on the map. It's likely that this dance may send us to enhanced Fire Giant territory, but we're going to have to wait and see who exactly is going to start this one. Will they take it down before 30, or are they going to rush as Pyromancer is being pinged around, as it's going to be spawning in soon as well. Primal Fury coming up about the same amount of time. We just see these two teams doing a slow but steady dance around the Pandas side of the Fire Giant jungle.
Could be a good opportunity to send over the Mercury, see if they're able to take down this Primal, and just ult over if needed, if that's the way Purple Pandas want to look. Doesn't have a whole lot of pin in the build just yet, mostly having this Blood Forge instead. Does provide a lot of power in that shield, but is light on the ability to burn down these tanks as well as you might want to, and objectives in general as you want to have a little pin on, but looks like they're going to initiate here.
We do see that even without Chicken, Purple Pandas are not afraid to take the fight. If they did decide to take it in their own side of the jungle, he did have a good flank, but instead, going to be rejoining his team. And the poke that was done, immediately done away with, is, it seems now, they're just looking to even just try to start the Pyromancer. And as you mentioned, I'm kind of surprised that no one has tried sending this Mercury over to the Primal Fury. He does have the lifesteal with the damage. There should be an ability, especially with Protector of the Jungle online. Damage is there if needed to take it down. Instead, an engagement will happen. We already see Truce taking a little bit of poke, not much damage done to him. However, the wall is going to get used, and Pyromancer will be started by Purple Pandas. Fury trying to find a dropkick, is unable to do so. Steve gets a nice double freeze, and in comes Horrific, trying to find anything he can. Steve's going to continue chasing down a nice wall. The ultimate combo. The Mercury ultimate as well, through space and time, comes through. They're trying to use everything they can to burn members of T-Garden down, but they can't find the kills just yet. Necrogue instead will find the first one. Viz will follow up with the kill onto Sanders, and Necrogue Fury finds his way out with 1 HP and make that a double for Viz. The crush on the Shark is good. They're searching for more. Can they find Horrific? It's close. Oh, the jukes, he's bringing them out. It's so hard to find, but finally, 12 gauge with the dash will find Horrific. 4 for none. in favor of Tea Garden. These Phoenixes are wide open.
Should be a pretty easy middle Phoenix here for Tea Garden, and they do a really nice job in that fight to take out the Mercury, the big threat to the back line early, and that allows so much more freedom. A nice wall from Ymir initially, but if you notice, that Mercury ult did go into the wall and not allow them to chase up the Scylla, who was really low health. So it was kind of a double-sided blade there for them, but they're chasing out this kill. Could find it with the last breath used, but not enough, and that will be the middle Phoenix. Fire Giant also open here for Tea Garden if they want to move that way, and it looks like they will, though Purple Pandas have a couple people up, and of course that Giannis ult if they want to get there to contest this EFG.
A nice little thing to mention is that Steve threw his wall up in front of the Phoenix. There was no free damage going that way, actually stalling Tea Garden long enough that they couldn't shred that mid Phoenix down very quickly. The rest of Purple Panda is able to come up in time as well. So Fire Giant cannot be done. Matter of fact, they're going to be the ones starting it, knowing I'm a Monster is down. And the only members from Tea Garden who are here is going to be Fury and Necro. 12 gauge is going to be in the area as well. But the question is, will they be able to even contest this? This is enhanced. They don't want to let it go for free. But the presence of Fury is more than enough for Purple Pandas to just back off.
Surprising call there. Would like to have seen them pull it and then just try to bait them in further. Look for the burn onto this Gilgamesh, as they had pretty good positioning, and of course we got to mention it, this Mercury for extra burn onto them. However, this does give the advantage to Tea Garden to go ahead and get set up around this objective, and I doubt Purple Pandas are just going to willingly give up this EFG, because EFG is such a strong objective to have. It takes away those protections onto the Phoenixes, meaning you don't need minions. It's also a really big boost just to power and sustain in general. Now, the difference between these two teams, as you see on the charts, pretty much wiped out entirely except for a little bit of XP, the gold. Nothing to really look at with 1,000, the difference between these two. We'll see how they look to shake it down. Fire Giant pulled now.
EFG pulled. The Primal Furies have been standing this entire time as well. And it's falling very low. Matter of fact, this is getting close. A Monster is popped. In comes Purple Pandas, and they do manage to steal it away. Enhanced Fire Giant goes their way. 4 ultimates have been thrown out. Shark finds 12 gauge on the back end of the fight, and they're trying to find more. Necrogue will take down Horrific, but Shark trades out Truce for a double kill. They're looking to find anything more that they can with the jungle and support down. A little bit of damage thrown out from Viz. He's going to slow them down ever so slightly. And it looks like Tea Garden will be able to find their way back safely towards their Phoenix. However, Viz, he's going to let them know he's around the corner trying to throw any sort of damage. It's not able to hit. He's going to have to be careful getting back inside his Phoenix. But this enhanced Fire Giant is proving a little bit too much with Shark still up. These objectives are being shredded. Chicken takes down Viz, catching him out of position all alone. Mid Phoenix falls. The Pandas Titan is under attack, but they're not too worried. Even though it's a fire minion wave, the minions of their own dealing with it. Members will begin to try and regroup and find another possible Phoenix.
Huge Fire Giant steal there, and I could be wrong, but I think it was actually the Ymir that was able to take that one away for the team Purple Pandas there, and that puts them back in the lead. You're able to get the mid Phoenix, and now you have fire minions to stall out this wave, so it's not so much to look at. And you get this Gold Fury down as well. We see the crits starting to really pile up here for this Mercury, critting those Oracles at 1,500 at one point. It's safe to say that this jungler is now online for this Purple Panda squad, and they're looking strong, able to get back into this game. We now have this Chiron with this tank shredding build online, and we get to see it on the damage chart starting to creep up towards the top. They're looking good.
I think one thing to note as well is that his Rage only has 3 stacks. It's not even fully online in itself, missing just a couple. So this is something interesting to see, that he's able to get so many crits hitting so hard without that full stacking item. But one thing we do have to put on Tea Garden, this enhanced Fire Giant is proving heavy against them, and they want to find everything they can. They do have fire minions pouring down mid. Unfortunately, because of the fire minions coming in from Purple Pandas, this isn't going to do any good for them. But they need to be all here to defend this left-hand Phoenix. Chicken, he's on the right-hand side, so this could be an opportunity for Tea Garden, if recognized, to take this fight and possibly take a few members of Purple Pandas down and get this EFG off of them. but they're dancing under Phoenix instead. The engagement, they're waiting for the minions to come through. T-Garden stepping up to try and clear it as quickly as possible, unable to really do too much. But it looks like Purple Pandas, they're just stalling for Chicken, which 12 Gauge finally has to go over and pay attention to due to him being so close to Phoenix. In comes Horrific going onto the backline, finding quite a bit of damage onto Necro, leaping out. And this left-hand Phoenix is going to fall. The fight's coming through space and time, finds Necro, the kill for Sanders. And Viz falls to Chicken on the back end of this fight. 12 Gauge is nowhere near as he was trying to defend the Phoenix. A double kill for Chicken. And this is not looking good. 3 members have already fallen. The triple kill for the jungler. It's all on Truce now, and it's not going to be enough to stop this Titan from falling. Purple Pandas with the enhanced Fire Giant. And game number 1, 37 minutes in, finding themselves in a good position to take this set.
And both of these teams looked like they had moments where it could go either way towards them. T-Garden, however, give up that pivotal Fire Giant to this Purple Panda squad, getting it stolen away. And that turned the corner for this squad to be able to take down the rest of the Phoenixes and put this one to bed. The Mercury finally comes online, notches the triple kill, and this comp comes to fruition overall. It's up to them to try to get at least a little bit more pressure early on if they want to, in this next game, to keep that lead in their way. And T-Garden just was not able to do it. A lot of that falling on the duo lane, who seemed to struggle just a little bit.
No, it's definitely unfortunate for T-Garden. After even showing that they were wanting to have a strong presence, one fight turned it all around, as both these teams had been looking strong at some point. Purple Pandas, they come away with the first map game win. Game number 2, it's going to be, we're going to see if it can be a different story for these guys. But before we get to that, we're going to send it back to the desk to break this one down and let us know how we could be looking for game number 2.
The only way I can describe that game is if a T-Garden were holding it in their hands and just turned to sand and just slowly trickled out through their fingertips. I am unsure exactly what they could have done differently besides just confirming a Fire Giant. Honestly, that's the main tipping point that turned the game against their favor. Unfortunately, I do was muted.
Yeah, it's just a bit rough. With the Ymir, that Ymir ult coming on through was so potent. Just blink in, I just ult. And the thing with the Ymir ult, we had that change recently where if Ymir dies in the ult, the damage still goes off. So that Fire Giant got just so low, and that's kind of on Scylla ult. You need to know how much damage Scylla ult is doing to Fire Giant. You need to know at what point you can just go, we get the kill there. That's how we secure Fire Giant. Because that was twice. Both Fire Giants weren't secured by I'm a Monster. I'm a Monster was off on its damage. And that's a huge thing. We saw the first Fire Giant, when we saw that first Fire Giant around the 22-minute mark, it was a 3-0 for T-Gardens. They go straight into FG, and then they play it clinically. They don't try and overextend, push a Phoenix and say, let's just strip away all the towers. They even up their gold lead. The thing is that because there were still towers available for Purple Pandas to grab, if they got the opportunity, they could easily reswing that gold lead. The Mercury finally started to come online after they had that sort of mid-game hump of trying to get online their Bloodforge, which we were both backstage talking. We felt we get the idea behind Bloodforge, but because it's so expensive and because they were trying to grind up for it, it limited the impact that we saw Rago's Chicken to be able to have. The late game, though, all on Steve. Steve is the reason this game lasts as long as it does. Steve is the reason that Purple Pandas win this game.
100%. I definitely agree with that one. The way that the Ymir was able to position and just make other people feel uncomfortable just to be around really gave them a lot of room to breathe, especially even when they were down, especially. And like you mentioned, the Mercury, I don't think the Mercury got a kill until about 32-ish minutes into that game. And granted, Mercury is a late game character. I think that's a bit too late game to really see that impact. So if you're Purple Pandas, you managed to steal away game number 1 out of the hands of Tea Garden, what are some of the adjustments you're really trying to make to potentially make game 2 a bit cleaner and not less waiting for a mistake to be made on Tea Garden's part?
I think it's the utilization of the pressure. We saw how Horrific made a phenomenal play out towards the early game. We saw 2-level lead going the way of Horrific versus Fury. And it was a really, really strong look. The problem is that once that tier 1 tower went down, Horrific's rotations, they need to be faster than Fury. Fury looked at the tier 1 tower being down and said, okay, I lost lane. Let's just go and make an impact over in the rest of the team fights. Horrific never felt like they had that same opportunity. So it was very difficult to translate that pressure lead that they had into anything more. It took a lot of hard work from the rest of the team to be able to pull back. We also saw as well Muscle Shark had a little bit of a switch up into the build. The Transcendence into RC into Executioner was fine. Then we saw like some Wind Demons come out, but then it got sold for the kin size into Odysseus Bow. You've got to be able to commit to something. And you've got to work out what it is you want to do quicker and sooner, because otherwise you're just spinning the wheels for longer and not going anywhere. Everything else felt reasonably okay. Their team fights were a little bit off. We saw that one unfortunate incident of Rago's chicken ulting through, perfectly positions themselves, and then walk through, and then end up going through a Rihanna's portal on the other side behind a Ymir wall. It was a bit unfortunate, but their target selection was pretty good. And again, it was Steve as the MVP for this. They're the reason that the fights went as well as they did, and they're predominantly the reason that the game ends up going in Purple Panda's favor.
Yeah, they just have to really be more decisive in their decision making. I think that definitely is a very fair point to make. And if you're Tea Garden here, do you just kind of try to brush it off and say, hey, that was just kind of off the back of a bad Fire Giant confirmed as work on that? Or do you think that there's something else Tea Garden really needs to do to stop this from happening potentially in game number 2?
I think that Tea Garden, it was just an unfortunate lack of confirm on the Fire Giant in that instance. They were doing everything right. We were backstage and you were going, do Purple Pandas win this? I don't know. It looks like they're pretty good. But on the other side, it wasn't a major gold lead for that first 15-20 minute mark. It took a lot of work for Purple Pandas to break open the game in their favor, and that was only at the very end. So for this, it was kind of, they were comfortable getting to that, getting through that early laning, early pressure, early laning phase. And so for me, it is just how you're going to play these objectives. Who's securing? How much are you going to be able to put damage out? Do you leash it? Do you not leash it? It's those minor little details that really make up the macro impact in this game.
So that's going to be some things for Tea Garden to think about, and Purple Pandas kind of think about how they're wanting to adjust it going to game number 2. Unfortunately, it looks like we're having some technical issues with Smite right now, so we're going to be throwing it to a break for a little bit, and once we come back, we'll be going back at you with game number 2 picks and bans. And welcome back. I'm joined again by Blur on the desk here for game number 2, Picks and Bans, T-Garden versus Purple Pandas in the Savages division of the Albion Giants League. Purple Pandas going up 1-0 against T-Garden here. We talked about before the break happened about some of the different thought processes and how to adjust their gameplay for the second game here. How do you think that will apply to bans in this second game?
So I think the one ban you could probably look at maybe would be taking away the QQ lane, just because if Purple Pandas, if from their side of things, you got to look, what are Purple Pandas looking to do? If they're going to get that kind of pressure again, they want to use it better. Don't give them that same level of pressure. Take the QQ lane away. You can also use that as an option to potentially grab something that was banned previously, whereas right now we seem to be the same bans here, the Radiant and the Set. I believe it was Sol, Nemesis, Athena, and Tiamat were the others. So what we'd be looking at here, maybe pick up one of those. The Sol may get picked up again. That's not too bad. Other than that, you might want to look towards the duo lane. Mark Shark had a very strong showing throughout the game, so taking that away might also not be too bad. Put Netrogue on something that's very, very potent as well, so you can really try and abuse that dual lane side of the map. Yeah,
we know that Rago's Chicken also kind of seemed to sit on solo side in the early game to try to give a lead for the Purple Panda solo laner here. Do you think that if you're T-Garden, since you do ban the Cocoon, that gives away some of the pressure that Horrific had last game, do you also maybe look for a safer pick in solo lane? Just someone who can, like someone like a Sobek, who can more just stagnate the lane, make sure no one really wins or loses and gets to the late game?
I mean, Sobek's a fine option on things. I didn't mind what we saw out of the Gilgamesh. I mean, the thing was as well, despite going down in the lane, the impact that we saw them have across the team fights was absolutely phenomenal. They ended up actually pulling back ahead and getting an experience lead in that game. So I don't have any problems with seeing the Gilgamesh get run back. We are going to see the Chiron band out as well. So that does mean that Nemesis and Sol are both on the table. I don't think Nemesis is going to necessarily be picked up here, though I wouldn't be surprised if Sol gets locked in here. T-Gardens could run that quite nicely. It's very, very strong pressure and is always going to be a solid look here.
I think maybe T-Garden banned out the Nemesis last game as like something that they weren't sure they wanted to play against. But given the showing that Purple Pandas had with the Chiron and the Cocoon, both being the picks that really had the biggest lead last game, banning that seems to be a safe choice. Purple Pandas sticking with the same 3 bans as last time. They're not really concerned about anything T-Garden plays, at least not that they're showing so far. And like you had mentioned, the Soul being something that can be easily top picked is currently being hovered and now locked for T-Garden. Soul can be mid or ADC here. If you're T-Garden, is that just another flex you're going to kind of see how the drafts pan out, or do you really think that you would have that for specifically one player and then just try to move the rest of the draft around that Soul pick?
I think this Soul pick is more than likely going to be straight towards the ADC role, especially with the Chiron taken away. This sort of leans into the idea of we want pressure in this lane side of things. Purple Pandas, though, they're going to be the ones taking away this Scylla this time, and the Gilgamesh hover here. That's a lot of pressure available for them, especially if they do run this Gilgamesh into the jungle. We could see it go towards the solo side. Again, just the team fight presence that this has is phenomenally impactful from sort of minute 7 into the game if they make that kind of a rotation.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw my facial expression there, but when they lock the Scylla and Gilgamesh, that hurts. That's a dangerous pair to be able to let through. Just the Scylla damage and the Gilgamesh damage both being insanely strong together, as we saw T-Garden use last game. But the Awilix getting locked in by T-Garden was something that was actually banned previously for the same type of matchup. I think T-Garden might think that's just a very strong counter matchup into the Scylla Gilgamesh, and Sobek also being picked up for T-Garden. Do you think that's going to be in the solo lane against potentially Gilgamesh? Or do you think that's just going to be put in support?
That's a tricky one to answer at this point in time. We need to see a little bit more of the draft. Again, it's still that nice flex potential. Whatever it does do, though, is offer a little bit more of a knock-up for this Awilish. Carly getting picked here. It's another leap that might cause some trouble for the Awilish, but when you've got so many people with leaps, it kind of doesn't necessarily work out too bad if there's you either have no leaps or everyone has a leap when it comes to fighting a wheelish, because that way it just overloads the wheelish. If you have multiple people being able to jump in, the wheelish now has to try and target prioritize. If you get the wrong one, then you're in a really awkward spot here. But that does round out the top side of the bands here. With the King Arthur taken away by Purple Pandas, they're leaning for Tea Gardens to take this Sobek into the support role and just trying to ban away some other solo laners. It's still potential for whether or not we see this this tier go ahead, this Gilgamesh, excuse me, go ahead and get locked in for the solo lane. It's still a little ambiguous for now, but honestly, with the way that we're seeing here, there it is. I was gonna say, I want to see a Ymir ban here. If it wasn't top picked, Steve had a phenomenal looking game on this Ymir. Don't let him get it again. He's the reason that Tea Gardens lost the game, or a main reason in my eyes. So getting that off the table, put him on something else. It takes away a lot of early pressure. Purple Pandas are still looking for a duo lane here. And is that's a
tier ban. Yeah, that's definitely a very strange ban, unless you're specifically wanting to ban it just to get rid of one of the knockups that a Wheelix might be able to use with her ultimate. But overall, that's not really a super common pick. And as we can kind of see as these drafts have been going on, it really seems as if both teams are either banning something that the other team played or picking something that was banned last game. But another strange fifth ban with a Heimdall being banned out. Do you think this is a scouting ban, maybe, or what would be the real reason that they would ban Heimdall of all characters?
It's all about that duo lane. You look at the other ban in there, you've got the Ymir. Now you take away that Heimdall, and you've just said no pressure in you for the duo lane. If you want pressure, you're gonna have to look somewhere else for it. Kepri's not a bad one to go with. That Rising Dawn is such a phenomenal passive when it comes to has such a phenomenal passive on it, being able to make your minions tankier. It just causes you to have like a wave and a half here, but it looks like they're going to be leaving their ADC pick for last, which not something we're used to seeing right now. Tea Gardens, this is where they're going to have to round out that draft and decide where everyone's going. With the Janus hover, it does look like Sol is going to be the ADC. And a Hercules last pick here to try and put some pressure in the duo lane themselves. I wouldn't expect to see the Hercules solo. It's more than likely going to be run as a support if it does get locked in. So it looks like you might be right with that Sobek solo call.
And that wasn't the team I was initially thinking it was going to be for, but actually, no, it was. I don't even know what I'm talking about. I talked about it earlier and I forgot about it. But yeah, so that might just be the solo pick.
You know, I had back there the whole time. It's like, no, you called that. And you're like, no, I didn't call that. Yes, you did. You got that.
I just don't want any credit. I don't want any credit for it. But yeah, this is definitely would be interesting to see that the Hercules in, because that seems to be with the Soul now, a very strong kill lane for Tea Garden in the dual lane. But Cupid being hovered for Purple Pandas, if they do end up locking that in, I feel like that Kepri and Cupid, they don't win in lane clear, but they don't lose it either. I feel like in pressure, they probably have one of the best combinations that kind of nullifies some of the lane pressure that'll be innately given by the Hercules and Soul.
A little bit as well. Muscle Shark having that extra little bit of healing to sustain with the team. For me, this team fight, though, is ridiculous with Purple Pandas. Last game, it was all about early pressure, pick potential. Now, they've gone and drafted themselves a super solid core in their Hunter, their mid, and their support here. These are some fantastic kind of team members to play around when it comes to the team fights aspects. And then you've got Rago's chicken on Kali, Horrific on Gilgamesh. They can dive to their heart's content. Purple Pandas completely flip out their script. Now it's Tea Gardens who look like they're more on that pick orientated kind of comp.
Yeah, I definitely think the success of Tea Garden is going to be almost solely on how well they can get any picks with this composition, as I feel like once it gets to about maybe the 25-plus minute mark, Tea Garden's going to really struggle to make any impact in these 5v5 team fights. They really just have to try to get people out of the team fights early and make sure that there's not even playing grounds on both sides. But for now, that's kind of just our initial thoughts, but Vengeance and Bastion are going to walk us through game number 2 of Purple Pandas versus Tea Garden.
Thank you guys on the desk, Surge and Blur, Passion, they mentioned it. These comps are kind of going to tell the tale over time of who just plays theirs better at the end of the day. But for me, T Garden, the story for them is how well 12 gauge can pilot this Willix, because this pick, if it does not start off well, the late game will not go well for them either. And Chicken, he can wait till the late game yet again because this is Kali.
So Wheelix does have some utility to help it get these picks off the gravity surge. Of course, the Herc pluck, the Sobek pluck, and Kali, as well as Gilgamesh with the built-in jumps. But you're right. If they don't get some early pressure, this is looking pretty tough for T-Guard. Purple Pandas literally have about as late as you typically ever want to see of a draft, having this Kali, the Khepri ultimate to work with the Kali ultimate and the Scylla on top of it, just as a little cherry on top of the late game cake.
You already see some crush damage coming out from Sanders over in mid lane onto Viz, who's this time the one piloting the Yanis. And over in duo, see Truce taking quite a bit of poke. He is playing Sobek, however, so he does have, healing within his own kit, not having to worry too much about this. And we do see Necrogue. He's gone for the Vamp Shroud with a couple multis in mana pots. Not usually what we typically see, but it is an interesting choice.
Vamp Shroud gives a benefit if you're looking at that primarily heavy lifesteal build, and that will certainly give you some protections as well. But looks like a gank coming out early just doesn't get the timing on the knockup to work that one out there. Blink expended from the Awelix, so that will take one utility away and some of the pressure that maybe they're able to use early game.
Interesting choice to go for the gank there, especially expending the blink, but we do see the invade from Chicken is successful, taking down these back harpies, able to even get the side ones as well. This is only going to hurt in the long run. 12 gauge having less farm to get himself. And over in the duo, we see a little bit of a knockup coming from Truce. Necrogue not quite able to do enough damage at the moment to take Steve down. So Purple Panda's duo lane, they're getting poked at quite a bit, but they just do not seem to care. They do understand that their return damage can do a lot more if this Heart Bomb connects on either member. T Garden's duo. One thing to talk about is we do see this Mana Conceptor coming back as of recently with boots being removed. This item just seems to have some sort of other impact now.
Mana Conceptor gives you that early damage from the extra tick damage. Can be a lot, especially when you don't have a large health pool. Now, Mana Conceptor does, however, not scale quite as well into the late game as something like having that Eye of the Jungle to go into the Protector of the Jungle. So it does give the early game more so to the Kali that they don't typically have. But of course, you're sacrificing a little bit of late if you decide to go completely into that item. We'll see how it pans out. But so far, Rago's Chicken has been getting some early buff invades or back camp invades, which is great. Really want to see them hit that stride to the late game, and we'll see if this Awelix is able to get started on this left side.
Oh, she's positioned over there, just invading for the mini harpy over on the duo side, but this Heart Bomb comes out on the Necrogue, stopping him. But the knockup is good onto Steve, who pops beads afterwards. It's not going to do him any good, though, because he is still plucked backwards. The damage is coming through the Stellar Burst off the mark, but it doesn't matter. Necrogue does find the final auto onto Steve to get first blood in favor of T-Garden, but Sanders immediately over in mid gets a kill in return with I'm a Monster taking down Viz, just negating immediately the kill coming out of T-Garden's duo.
Nice job of Sanders to pick that one up. And back to the duo lane, and early beads from the Khepri there. Maybe thought that Awelix was 5, but not having that gravitational surge doesn't put them in the pressure of being pulled. And then the Sobek pluck, just about as easy as it gets with that one lined up, sacrifices the life of the support for Purple Panda. So it's just more of a timing and being able to recognize when you really are in trouble and need to use those beads. So we'll see if they're able to work that out for them so far. But having some extra pressure for the Soul going to be nice. They do have that pressure advantage just naturally into this Cupid, but being able to pressure that and have it on this left side where they didn't last game is going to be pretty pivotal.
Is trying to find some damage onto Sanders, unable to hit the mark. However, the crush as he goes around the corner will land some damage. Nothing's going to come of it either way. Neither team's going to even try to really do an engagement here. As Sanders decides to back at the carrying coin online, find that with his Sands of Time, whereas we do see Viz, Conduit Gem. both teams going to kind of just go back to farming, doing their base levels right now. We do see, it looks like this could be a possible Atalanta's bow. However, we do know this tier 2 bow does branch into a few different options. So likely to even be an Ichabod. Actually, would this be an Ichabod? Because it would be interesting if Chicken decided to go this bow build.
Well, Ichabod would be pretty good having that boxing potential, especially into the Awilix. With the Awilix typically going to have that better early game damage, it does give you that nicety. And of course, Ichabod is just good overall right now. You have the additional power on it, the attack speed of it. Could definitely see that working out here for the Kali. Atalanta's also a possibility just because of the power, attack speed, and the movement speed. So both could be worked into the build pretty easily. And part of the bow build likely will come out for this Kali just because that tree gives a lot of the attack speed that she wants.
Well, rotation over to mid. We see it come out. The ultimate from 12 gauge. Unfortunately, it's not enough.
pluck.
Beads comes out. I'm a monster comes out as well. Lurking in the waters has to be expended, but the crush to follow up is good enough to take Truce down. We see Sanders already finding himself 2-0-0, and Chicken have a couple assists as well.
And it does give that benefit having the extra pressure on this mid laner and getting the assist for the jungler. Just an unfortunate pluck there for Truce. Couldn't line that one up, which could have been a pretty good opportunity for them having the bees already stripped away, but Gank coming out in the solo lane.
And this is going to be attempted. We already see, but Chicken wins it in the end. 12 gauge does fall. The Winds of Samash used as well as the Hercules ultimate was used to try and help his team out through Space and Time coming through. But Chicken has popped the ultimate of his own. He wants to find this kill. The Capri ultimate on top just to guarantee that he survives this engagement. Horrific. Even use the drop kick, stun both of them. There will be no chase coming this way. Just excellent play coming from Purple Panda. Secure the kill and give nothing up in return.
And that's a little look at the scary combination we could see a lot of as it gets later game. Having the Kali with their own ultimate to have that invincibility really of a couple seconds, on top of the fact that you now have a Khepri to also place the ultimate and allow them to chase even further. Once this build gets online, they can really tear through a backline if you're not able to effectively peel them off with the combination of the two. And that's something you've got to be very wary of. On top of the Scylla damage, with the Scylla being 2 levels ahead, they're going to get this build online pretty quickly, and the Giannis is going to struggle to keep up if they can't change things around.
Oh, we see 4 members of Purple Pandas hit level 9 already. Only 2 on the side of Tea Garden. And this little advantage could turn into something much worse, as it looks like Chicken is going into one of the swords currently. Could be stone cutting as well, just get some movement speed online with some protection shred. But we're going to have to wait and see what's going to come of that, as we do notice Sanders. Karen's coin has a stack on it. Looks like he possibly going into Soul Gem as well. And the setup coming around these oracles, this left-hand side, the Gold Fury standing up. Both teams want to be able to be the ones who do this and not give it up for free. As we do see the pluck coming out, forcing the beads out of Steve. It's a very late beads, but just in case anything else is there. But the I'm a Monster does so much damage. The crush just off the mark. The Cupid ultimate comes in. Chicken will clean 12 gauge up. He's going to try and find his way out of this one. The Capri ultimate back up. He's going to keep fighting as long as he can. But recognizing this ult's coming down, he's trying to dance around. Unfortunately, he's not near his team, so he may end up falling. The damage just isn't there. And his finally will find Chicken at the end, but the rest of Purple Pandas have started showing up. They want to find anything they can. The Supernova coming out, trying to find the kills, and these guys are just getting out barely. Purple Pandas, multiple members plucked in, getting right back out, trying to find the good positioning. A blink from Truce. He wants to find a pluck, but he's unable to do so. So this fight will be disengaged.
Being disengaged there pretty much for Purple Pandas at the end of it. We're able to squeak out with some low HP bars, and it works out for them. Another struggle for this Awilix that we haven't talked about, especially not having the beads, is what we saw there, that Cupid ultimate to really lock them down and cripple them out. A lot of the kit that you want to use from Awilix, and just hasn't been able to find the value in this pick, sitting at 0-2-1. The Kali is completely comfortable just sitting around, farming up, get the late game. We know how scary that is. If they cannot find a way to get more involved, though, this jungler is not going to be able to provide the same pressure, the same ability to get these picks, to get this damage onto the backline that you want to be able to see.
Both teams just farming up, and Chicken yet again invading this right hand side of T-Guard, and he's going to try and get this speed buff, but has to be careful. 12 gauge is on the way. He's going to see what's going on. Going to try and contest this. Unable to do so as the stun comes out along with the knives, but a good trade of damage. Both members just fighting each other as hard as they can, but Chicken is caught in an awkward situation because in comes Viz. Right behind him is Truce and Fury as well. Chicken still finds one. Make that two as Viz tries using 3 space of time to get out. Unfortunately, unable to do so. Fury will trade Chicken out with the help of the tower. Gold Fury is being done in the meantime. Purple Pandas will secure that absolutely free as Chicken attracting so many members. No one had any idea, and oh, this bully over in duo.
To chase out his wins, so Shamash used, but not going to commit entirely to getting this pick on the soul. But they've already got the Gold Fury, a lot of value there, and Chicken was able to pick up kills in the mid lane all on their own, and that in its own is also scary that Chicken can take that much heat off of the rest of the team for them to be able to take a Gold Fury and still finish the kills at the end of the day. Having this Ikoval online and going to the Hasten Katanas, a good amount of attack speed and just power in general already online for this Kali. Having the 2-level lead for themselves, and leads pretty much in this mid in general has been where we've seen a lot of this pressure come out of Purple Pandas. They've drafted to have this late game scary mid duo jungle kind of thing, and it's really working out for them in this mid game, which is great to see for them. Up to Tea Garden to try to get a little bit better warding around these objectives. You just can't give them up free like that.
Well, the desk talked about the execution of these comps, and so far T-Guard not able to execute theirs at all. And I mentioned before earlier, we talked about at the start of this game, the jungle play is going to be a huge factor. 0-3-2 is 12 gauge, whereas you see 4-2-2 on Chicken. And this is definitely a big reason as to why Pandas have the lead they do. It's not a 1,000 gold lead solid as of yet, but the experience lead is there.
And experience typically a little more impactful early on unless you have a massive gold lead. And that's typically what gives all the advantage, having those levels, the extra damage on abilities, especially for a god like Scylla who gets additional power for each tree of the abilities that you finish, and Crush likely already done just because you typically level the 2 all the way. So that's extra power that we see in the build already, and having the Soul Gem gives you the burst off the passive, gives you that additional healing. I like what we see out of these builds so far from Purple Pandas.
Well, everything coming into place for the Pandas so far. They have secured the only objective that's been attempted so far. The Fire Giant, Pyromancer both standing up 13 minutes in. All towers standing as well this time around. No one has yet to really find that big advantage in any sort of lane fight. But Chicken, he's lurking on Necro. He wants to try and find something. The blink, the leap, the stun, the knives, the fields of love, but the disapparate will get Necro out clean. It's a little bit of a heavy usage to try and find this ADC, and it looks like there may be a counter engagement coming through as Truce. He's lurking up, but the jungler, 12 gauge, has decided not. Pluck just does not able to bring back Steve. They're going to have to stop this one themselves.
The jungler not being there takes a lot of pressure off of that re-engagement there, and Sobek can be scary, but not going to be scary into 3 members. Weird timing, however, on that gank with the usage of the Fields of Love. If you wait a little bit later, you might be able to spring that trap on the soul a bit more successfully. So hopefully they can work out some of that timing. Now, talking about the soul, we mentioned the Vamp Shroud early on. Now has the Bancrofts and the Telekines. A little bit departed from what we've seen with the Telekines being early. It does provide, obviously, that extra power and the power on the autos, though we have seen a mix-up in builds recently, and sometimes that Spear of the Magus being picked up. Pyromancer, though, will be picked up by the Purple Pandas, and they've got the last 2 objectives pretty free.
No contesting from T-Guard, no vision around these objectives as well. Oni Fury going to be spawning soon, so that Pyromancer picked up in good time, not able to be traded out if T-Guard and find themselves at a disadvantage around the Oni Fury. Over in mid, we see quite the grouping from these mids and supports, trying to apply pressure to each other. But Sanders just wants to find some time in the back, and he's going to find himself a Divine Ruin upon backing. As we see Biz going the tier 2 book, finding himself in a spot trying to find any more damage he possibly can. But members of Purple Panda starting to look more towards this left side the closer this Oni Fury gets to spawning. Oracles will be coming up as well, so that's something these teams will be looking at for vision. And yet again, we just see farm and pressure trying to be applied across the map.
Makes a lot of sense to go into that divine. You have the Hercules healing and the soul healing that you want to take care of. And Purple Panda should be favored around this objective, just the way they've been able to control out of this mid lane, the jungle as well. And Oni coming down soon. They do have the advanced positioning, but could be looking for a gank around this purple buff.
Purple buff already down, so no one's going to really be there. The green buff, however, is going to fall under contestation. It's going to go the way of Purple Pandas fairly easily. 12 gauge unable to contest, but over near mid, we see a little bit of a pull come onto Viz, and the commitment is coming through. They're trying to find them. The Aegis and Beats both having to be popped at some point. Fury rotating in, trying to protect the mid lane as well. Truce, the pluck's not going to be good as Beats is forced out. And in comes the Soul Horrific, popping the ultimate as well. He's close to finding a kill. The leap out from 12 gauge, so far so good. Through space and time, comes through, just misses the mark. But on the back end is Chicken with the ultimate, finds one. Horrific finds the other. 2 for none so far, maybe 3 for none, as Shark does secure Truce. The members of Purple Pandas looking to secure this mid tower, also coming back in. Horrific, he wants to find something, and with Chicken there, this kill should happen. Aegis, the Capri ultimate to guarantee. He finds his mark, healing all the way back up, and is going to commit onto Fury. Will this be a deicide? Yes, it maybe. As Fury actually finds a return kill onto Chicken, the turnaround all of a sudden his tier 2 tower is being sieged. It looks like it may very well fall, but Fury is going to be left alone instead.
Picks up the T2, and the healing from the Hercules is pretty disgusting, but also disgusting is just this comp and the way Purple Pandas have been playing it. We see Kali go through their ultimate again, go through the Kepri again, and just able to shred down so well timed on the ultimate usage from this Purple Panda squad. And it's made it difficult for Teagarden, who cannot find a way to really spot out this jungler and take care of them. A lot of the weakness that the Kali pick suffers from is whenever you're able to peel it well, and that's part of the reason why we haven't seen maybe as much success in the SPL as a lot of people thought it would, is because it's so well timed and so well communicated. But we just haven't seen that here, and they've been able to do whatever they want in the backline whenever they want. They could get a red buff invade here.
Oh, Teagarden, they're gonna find this red buff. Purple Pandas, after doing the Fury, did need to back, so only minions will be coming out for them. This is something Teagarden is going to have to pay attention to, which may cost them a possible Fire Giant fight if Purple Pandas decide to act quickly on this one, as we do see Necro go over on the left-hand side, but it looks like Shark's going to head there himself. The minion waves are going to be contested. These Onis not going to really achieve much as a result. Over in the right lane, though, it may, because Teagarden had a couple members back, and yep, there goes Chicken. Just working with the minions, take down the right tier 1 tower, and Teagarden finding themselves with only 3 towers standing. Level 18 is this Kali along with the Cupid, whereas his counterpart is only level 15.
Makes a big difference in these team fights, and Chicken's on another pick that can split push and pick up towers really easily, especially with this build, the Ichabal, the Odie online, a lot of attack speed already present. And we're going to see the Serrated Edge get picked up, which I like a lot onto this Kali. Just provides additional power, some extra life stealing in these engagements. So it's certainly a nice one to have. Now, grouping on the right side by Purple Pandas, it looks like they could be looking at this Fire Giant or a pick onto the Hercules.
Well, Fury finds himself caught all alone. The beads is forced out. He is going to get rooted, however, but not chased down. Able to find his jungler nearby as well. Purple Pandas, they're going to set up for this Pyromancer as soon as it spawns. The left-hand side, we do see that Necrogue has decided to split push down this tier 1. He may be looking for a tier 2 as well. The Purple Pandas have decided they're going to start up the Fire Giant instead. No one paying attention to this left-hand side of the map. Could be dangerous, though. Necrogue, it is a soul. He may be able to full on send The Chicken, he's going to engage onto Fury. He's going to have the help of his support as well. Now we do have a fight in the Fire Giant instead of it being pulled. The tier 2 tower falls. Sanders finds Fury with a nice crush. Feels the love come out, but is unable to lock anyone down. Truth just gets mowed down by Chicken, using the ultimate as well. Horrific finds the kill onto 12 gauge. And Viz, well, he's just going to ult out of that one. And Necrogue, he's looking at the Phoenix, but unfortunately for him, there's a Scylla standing in his way. Crush comes through, cleans up the minions, and the Fire Giant will yet again be picked up. This time, only 2 members standing in Tea Garden. It is absolutely free. Purple Pandas coming closer to ending this one if Tea Garden can't get their defense together.
Purple Pandas have this on all 5 members. They're looking strong. Pushing down this right side should be a free T2 as well, and that will leave only the left side with towers still standing for this Purple Panda squad to take out. Now, Tea Garden do have a decent defense if they're able to get a nice pluck in early and try to split up the way Purple Pandas want to attack. And they have nice re-engage also with this Hercules. You can look for that kind of pluck back in after the beads are gone and the Awilix to follow up on the backside of it. They don't, however, necessarily have as good of a warning off ultimate with those big circles. Think Winds of Shamash, or even if you want to go back that far, since we have seen it, that big Alposh Empty the Crypts ultimate. So that does provide a little bit difficulty for them. We'll see how they're able to navigate this defense.
Well, Tea Garden, they're just pushing up what they can, whereas Purple Pandas really taking their time to group together and try and push anything down. We do see the left-hand side completely open, so likely going to be their decision overall. On the right-hand side, Fury split pushing up towards this solo tier 1, trying to get that low tower all the way down. Horrific gonna back, most likely finish off his double defense item. It's going to be the Magi's Cloak, giving him a free beads as well. This left tier 1 tower finally will go down for Purple Pandas. Tea Garden, they're not really here to be able to set up for this one. We do see Chicken on the right-hand side, yet again going to be pushing these waves up. So this could be another situation for Purple Pandas. Take left Phoenix while having him split push right. Instead, Tea Garden, ooh, okay, that's a little too far for the comfort zone. Truth falls very quickly from 3 members, just the CC, the burn, no chance. Falling him away from that one, and this leaves very few members at this left-hand Phoenix. Matter of fact, it's only the Soul here to start with, finally joined by 2 other members trying to return as much damage as possible on members Purple Pandas, but in comes Horrific, the drop kicks, forcing them to separate, getting the damage off as well. It's canceled, but the Phoenix has already gone down. Horrific is low. The members are there to help. Sanders finds a double kill. Viz, Necrogue, one after the other. This only leaves 2 members standing. Shark finds Fury. It leaves, even though this is, oh no. Steve has found 12 gauge with the root. A triple kill for Sanders. Deicide, game number 2 goes the way of Purple Pandas under 24 minutes.
Purple Pandas looking entirely oppressive in this game. You've got to look to take away one of their key pieces in this next one. The Kali looks so strong. The Scylla as well. 6-0-7 out of this mid laner. And on the left side there, Tea Garden just get picked out early, which makes it so much easier to dive in. Realistically, a 4v4 because Chicken just went ahead and took out the right Phoenix, and then it's just kind of dominoes falling from there. With this big of a deficit, it's going to be tough to put up a difference from there. And we're going into the next game after this. Just 1 game left for them to be able to turn it around. If this Purple Pandas can snatch it away, they will be our finals victors. If they're looking this good in the 3rd game, it's going to be pretty tough for Tea Garden to stop them.
As you mentioned, game number 3, every game from here on out, do or die for Tea Garden. Purple Pandas looking to close it up and try and find their finals victory. Only chance for Tea Garden is that reverse sweep, but to set us up for game number 3 and what we could be looking at, we're going to throw it back to Surge and Blur on the desk.
Thank you, Vengeance. Thank you, Bastion. I think Rago's Chicken heard me after game 1 saying, you know, I feel like he needs to make a bigger impact earlier than 31 minutes into the game, because that Kali hit the gas pedal right at the start. I don't think he ever stopped.
And that's just the power of what this Kali can do. This kind of a build. Usually when you think Kali, you're thinking chin size, you're thinking slow build up to ramp with stone cutting. But nah, they just said mannequins, Ichabod. I want to box, I want to fight early. And this comp that they built around it was so good for it. Muscle Shark being able to create a huge zone control to give Kali any kind of 1v1 they want. Steve on this Kepri was a second Kali ult for them. I mean, we saw it go how much gas pedal this Kali was able to have constantly going in. And then you've also got Bilbo on this Scylla, who, if Kali gets him low and can't find the end kill, Scylla's got a crush that can do it from a fair distance. The way Purple Pandas played this game was perfect for this. They had the early pressure. Let's play through that early pressure. Let's find something we can try and set up. It was such a good look for this team, and this is exactly what I wanted to see coming in. Game 1, they got pressure, couldn't really transition it into anything, never really felt like they knew how to play a lead. This game, they just run the lead the entire game, and pretty much in half the time, as far as I'm concerned, they win the game.
Yeah, and if you're T-Guard in this game, after this game, you are demoralized, to say the least. Game 1, you should have had slip through your fingers. Try to shake off the bad feelings. Go into game number 2, pick a slightly different play style, a different comp, trying to go for that pick, and not even be able to get off the ground with it. You're already getting stomped over by the Kali and the Scylla. And at one point, Kali had, I think, 2 kills, and a Wheelix came in, knocked up the Kali at 1 HP, but ended up getting turned on because Kali got the stun off. And then just that must feel bad if you're 12 gauge. And then even later on, about 11 minutes, Kali is diving a tier 2 tower against 4 of your team members and comes out with 2 kills and only dies to a tower shot after jumping away. That's just, you really are struggling if you're T-Guard in the mentality department. But besides the mentals, what are you really thinking T-Guard needs to do to try to overcome the momentum that Purple Pandas has built up?
I want to see them try and just go, like, they need to just hit the ground hard and fast in this. I want to see them look to maybe go ahead and say, right, we'll take the early aggression comp. You need something that can straight up just fight early. This Awelish push was very early, and I get the idea. Here's a bunch of enemies that have a bunch of leaps, but it doesn't work out if the only thing this Awelish is there for is counterplay, because it wasn't as if, it was just the linchpin was the fact that they have to leap in. It ended up being just, well, they've all got leaps and I can ult them and that's free. It doesn't add anything extra to this kind of a structure that we saw going into this. So I want to just see a solid comp. I want to see them having some pressure for this kind of a draft.
Yeah, and we're going to be getting into game number 3 drafts here, actually. We did have a slight technical issue where we won't be able to actually see the bans for this game. But if you're Purple Pandas, do you try to stick with the same type of composition, or are you really looking to change anything up, or are you just trying to deny T-Guard anything that you feel like they might try to adjust to cancel out what you just did last game?
I mean, the thing that they've got right now is it ain't broke, so don't fix it. There are so many threats that are perfectly available. You've now got to worry about Bilbo with a Scylla. You've got to worry about, do we still ban the Gilgamesh? Chirons are something that you've got to ban away. Soul, if T-Gardens are still concerned about Soul, is that something that they can afford to let go? Now, they do have first pick, so it looks like they are going to go ahead and potentially run this back. I don't think that this is necessarily a bad pick. It's just we never really saw it do anything. It's spent a lot of time trying to just split push because the game kind of just ran away from T-Gardens and how Purple Pandas used their kind of a comp. It never focused around the duo lane like in game 1.
Yeah, if you really aren't able to do anything with that Soul is very good even from a slight lead or even, but if Soul gets down, she somewhat struggles in just the damage department because for the most part, if you're down and getting ran down, most of your kills being just dumped on top of yourself just to try to self-peel and try to live until your disapparate gives you those immune frames. As we see Gilgamesh actually being locked again for Purple Pandas, seems as though they didn't. T-Garden didn't really heed your advice and decided to allow that one through. And also the Chiron here. So we're seeing 2 picks that have already shown a lot of success for Purple Pandas. This is already not really looking out to be very good for T-Gardens, to say the least.
It's not, and this really surprises me because Tea Gardens have opted to go first pick here, and the way that this draft has been between these two teams, I really feel like second pick is always going to be able to get the better end of the deal. Like, yes, Tea Gardens got Soul. Soul feels like a fantastically strong god. Great tower pressure, great strong early game, but we're not seeing that actually mean or do anything here, though. It could very well be that this Soul might be looking towards the mid here, as Chernobog being hovered alongside a Camazotz. This Camazotz, I don't know how I feel about that. If it's going solo to try and fight Horrific on this Gilgamesh, then it's kind of the situation of they just stall out the lane, and the way they get pressure is they just constantly have a full health bar, which enables them to out-sustain and cause pressure through sort of a build-up over time. But if it's jungle, I'm not really feeling it. I feel like 12 gauge needs to be on something that can be an aggressor and start a fight. And Camazotz, I personally don't see that as doing it. I see that as a lot of poke trades and then diving the backline later.
Scylla, hold on, don't mean to derail that at all, but Scylla now being hovered for Purple Pandas. So Scylla's another pick that was very terrifying to play against, and that's also going on Purple Panda. Purple Panda is getting an all-star draft right now. Everything that they've shown this set that's been 100% like winning their lanes, being really solid picks for them, is still getting through. And I kind of wanted to jump back real quick to the Chernobog matchup, because not only did they pick that second, already kind of giving away that Soul should mostly be middle lane unless they throw Cherno in the mid for some reason. I feel like Chernobog automatically loses most of the matchup into Chiron, as his main source of clear takes him closer to the minion wave than most other ADCs would have to do. And Chiron loves having people close to the minion wave, because then he can just dash through them, put his entire kit on them, and kill them.
Pretty much. The Chernobog looking to try and out-rotate rather than win a lane. It's not about the laning phase, it's about getting level 5, trying to engage with the rest of the team so that they can force some kind of a lead. And I don't mind seeing this from Tea Gardens, but it's going to be rough for those early laning, for that early laning phase. So you're going to need some kind of strong support to be able to help alleviate a lot of that pressure with this. I am actually surprised to see that Purple Pandas end up with the Scylla. I thought that would have been one of the ones banned away, but apparently not the case. Ganesh going to be the lock-in here. So Ganesh, a fairly aggressive Guardian. The fact with you're bestowing all the kills, including on minions and such, means that there is no, I can't last hit, I'm stealing that away from my ADC. No, you just hard clear the wave as strong as possible. We have an Odin hover here, so maybe we're seeing this Camazotz go jungle and Odin to try and fight Gilgamesh. It's strong early, I don't mind seing it, but now
wait a minute, hold on a second. There's no way they lock both. There's no way they lock.
They could lock this. They could lock this. Odin support. If you're running Odin support, we've seen it run in the past before, trying to make use of that cage in a similar vein to the Dharmic Pillars. Then you've got the Ravan, which I think 12 gauge will love. This is a very strong, very prevalent god who just says, I'm going to just blow you up and blow you out of the water immediately. I think this is a great look. Solo lane, you have gone for that idea of we're just going to out-sustain, not throw a lead. This is probably, honestly, looking like Tea Garden's best draft here. But now it's on Purple Pandas to pick something. Do they try and switch this up and say this Gilg's jungle if they want to, and then just maybe counterpick the Camazotz here?
I would counter contest that the Odin's a very interesting matchup for almost the opposite reason. Because if we're assuming Odin's going to be support, the Ganesh silence takes away most of Odin's kit. It cancels the charge. I believe if Odin jumps down with his Raven Shield on him, it doesn't go off if he lands in the silence. So that seems like just automatically picking yourself into a losing lane matchup. Maybe it might be jungle, it might be solo. We might be seeing something wonky in support like a Raven potentially, but if it is the Odin support, I feel like that's might just be a misstep or a misunderstanding of how that matchup might go, as we see Bakasur being picked up by Purple Pandas. It seems as though Ra really likes those auto attack later game characters. He's picked the Mercury, he's picked the Kali, now he's picking the Bakasura. Personally, I think Purple Pandas has a very large advantage with just what the picks that they've gotten and what their team draft can really do against what Tea Garden has. But what are your thoughts on it?
I kind of counter the argument to the Gilgamesh one, just talking on it. Yes, it does mean that laning phase it's going to be very difficult for the Truths to use those bird bombs or be able to just hold that the Gungir spear charge. But if Steve is using that just on the Odin, yes, the laning phase becomes a problem. But if Viz or 12 gauge is able to free cast because Odin's being silenced, then okay, that's not necessarily the worst. At most, the scariest thing you're going to be worried about is trying to get the ult off in a team fight. Now, it's kind of this idea where, again, it goes to that like counter pick with a Wheelish. Oh no, the Wheelish will pull us. Okay, what are the rest of us doing when that happens? Well, we're just winning a team fight. Fantastic. Same idea here. As long as the Truths can weather that silence, which admittedly is a very damning ability, the rest of the team's going to have some free picking for those kind of engagements. I do think, though, that you definitely hit a very poignant point. Rago's chicken on another late game hyper carry in someone who can farm up the jungle, can very easily make use of Mannequin Scepter or I have the jungle. Either way, this is a scary kind of draft that Purple Pandas, they've got honestly the gods that won them games before. You've got Scylla, you've got Chiron, Gilgamesh. You've just swapped out a slightly aggressive support and a late game jungler for an aggressive support and a late game jungler. So the draft hasn't changed in this. And honestly, I think that this is Purple Panda's game to lose here.
I'm inclined to agree here, but I guess we'll have to see if T-Garens can take back a game against Purple Pandas and keep this set alive for them, or if Purple Pandas can confirm their victory for the finals here of the Savages division. We're going to go into game 3. Vengeance Bastion, take us away.
Thank you guys. And Bastion, here we are. What could possibly be the final game unless Tea Garden can turn this one around. And yet again, they've chosen the early game jungler. 12 gauge on this Robin is going to have to get off early, unlike he in game number 2. Because yet again, if he can't do anything early on, the later the game goes, the worse it's going to get for him. But Chicken, he's in a little bit of a different situation because he has the ability to free farm just by eating minions.
I would counter Vengeance that Tea Garden pretty much has an entirely early game draft. If this draft doesn't get off to a good start, it's looking Purple Pandas and looking very heavily Purple Pandas favored. And this draft in general is not something I'm super fond of. I get the idea of picking the Odin, but realistically you don't have a lot of lockdown onto anyone outside of Muscle Shark. And the Chiron can, of course, get that reset with the ultimate, so I'm not sure that picking the Odin, especially into the counter matchup that the Des mentioned of this Ganesha, is really going to provide all that much for the team. And the rest of the draft just does not seem very cohesive to me. If you don't get off to that early start, you're in a lot of trouble for this Tea Garden squad.
Well, these first 10 minutes are going to tell us a lot in terms of how the rest of this game may go. And already we see Purple Pandas in lane pushing a whole wave down before Tea Garden really get the chance to even attack the wave. They're going to go ahead and do an invade onto the mini Harpy of Tea Garden over in solo. We see this Camazotz trying to just do a little bit of poke over on a horrific thing what he can do. So far, nothing's coming of it. And I think Purple Pandas understand they don't even have to fight for kills. They can just play for safety, not giving anything up, and be very safe off. As we see Sanders in mid having to dash under tier 1 tower, not trying to give anything up. Steve falling low, but no further aggression coming out. Tea Garden, this time they're going to be the ones invading the mini harp.
For Purple Pandas, you can kind of just wait this out. If you're not finding yourself something like 5k down at 10 minutes, you're not really all that worried just because of scaling. But Gank coming over here to the dual lane, Ravana might get something going.
He's coming on the back end. It's going to be first blood on Steve. He's trying to find a little bit extra, but Shark's close enough to tier 1 tower. He's going to back off. Unfortunately, though, Chicken is going to find the gank on Viz in the mid lane, and that, yet again, 2 game, never mind. was 2 games in a row. They're trading kills out, but this time Horrific finds the kill in solo onto Fury. The Kamazat falling early on. It's a 2-1 lead going the way of Purple Pandas.
Big trade outs there. You get this mid pressure once again. The Scylla, this Bakasor have been able to contribute it. Even onto Soul, which is more of an early game pick, is going to have to jump away to safety though, which should be completely fine. And we've seen it time and time again. Horrific once again has pressure over here in the solo lane, especially with this Kamazot's build, which has me a little confused looking for this Death Toll instead of the Bluestone that we've seen so much of. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense whenever you think about how much pressure Bluestone typically gives you.
It is interesting to see, especially on a character like Kamazot's, who would take heavy advantage of the Bluestone pendant with his abilities. And we do see dual lane getting a rotation from Chicken, unable to find anything as T-Garden's duo is playing a little bit safer. Instead, they're going to rotate back around. However, this red buff being down for T-Garden, and it goes away as well. Not going to be online for Viz. They're going to just start farming up the neutrals instead, trying to find anything to get an advantage as quickly as they possibly can. Unfortunately, for T-Garden right now, this is one thing the desk was talking about, this early comp being punished. It's not looking good for them. 2-1 against them, and they're not finding any real openings to use this early aggression.
No, they haven't been able to find any invades or really a great amount of picks so far into the game. Now, you do have the Chernobog ultimate once they tick over to level 5 that you can start to leverage a little bit, but gank in the mid lane could make this even better for them if they're able to find it and just doesn't have the damage. Mystic Rush going to be expended though, leaves Ravana without an ultimate to use for a little bit, and that does provide some extra safety to the Scylla. And Raw goes Chicken once again on this right side, getting some invades off.
He's just free farming as he pleases. As you mentioned, unfortunately for T-Garden, their jungler Blink and ultimate has been expended, not getting what they were looking for. The Aegis was forced, however, on Sanders, so this could be looking for an opportunity to get some Stellar Burst Supernova combos going, and with Truce beginning to start rotations, it could be even easier to be able to find some sort of kill potential. Oracles coming up. These two will burn those down quickly, get a little bit of farm and vision going for their team, as with that Scorpion being down. Well, not being down, sorry. Looks like it's actually about to spawn. We're going to have vision ready for this one already, just in case. Pan is yet again try to get it in. Chicken, he just goes right past him and goes, I'm going back to the red buff. Let me strip this away. Sanders is more than safe enough with the teleport out. And just not in time. 12 gauge gets there right after the red buff's been done. And this is not looking good for TR. This is a lot of farm being stripped away.
It is, and you really want to get to that kind of mid to late again with Bakasor just to utilize that ultimate in the team fights that does such a good job of crippling out characters. And then just the pure damage that Bakasor has innately. You have the true damage on the 3, and the ability to just go nom 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 over and over again is really nice. Now the advantage to T-Garden is that they have a really burn-centric comp, so if they can get some good warding around these objectives, and with the Odin they have that zoning ult, they could put a lot of pressure on it. Though Scylla for secure makes it difficult.
Mystic Rush comes out. I'm a monster in returning with the Odin Cage. Dharmic Pillar as well. And with the damage coming from his team, I'm a monster connects onto one. Finding the kill. Chicken will find the other. And it's a 4-1 lead opened up just like that. Unfortunate there for the support and jungler of T-Garden. What they thought could be a potential under the tower kill quickly turns around on them. And Chicken just forced the bats out of hell from Fury, who just autoing down Golden Blade, seemingly doing more than enough to this level 7 Kamazotz, who hasn't even finished his first item yet.
Not something you really ever want to see as a Kamazotz, especially a solo lane Kamazotz, which should be ahead, is the same level of the jungler, and the jungler just running them down instead of the reverse. So that's a pretty bad omen for T-Garden in general, but we see fantastic ultimate coming out of the Purple Pandas mid laner, and they did it last game on the Scylla. 6-0 and I think 7 assists or something in that ballpark, allowing them to return this Scylla pick. It's not surprising that we're going to see much of the same, and they have a lot of safety from this Odin ult. As long as their leap is up with the Ganesh, they're sitting pretty.
And one thing we do want to notice is Chicken has already soloed the Fire Giant side Scorpion, so they're going to have an objective spawning here shortly. Pyromancer being the easiest one to take this early on. Odin's going to bird bomb in, trying to find Sanders, but unfortunately it does not connect. Teleport get him away from any sort of danger, as 12 Gauge makes his rotation through the mid lane. The right side will not be looked at by Chicken because he did back, trying to find himself another item online. And well, Horrific says, Fury, even with Berserker Shield, you're unable to fight me. The Mystical Male, Fighter's Mask, and the ultimate. Too much for him to handle right now. This solo lane, about 11.5, 2-level lead currently, 2-0-0 on the Gilgamesh. And this could mean trouble for Teagarden because he may be looking to rotate here soon.
Taking out this T1 tower will open up the possibility too, as well as having this Gold Fury Scorpion down means Gold Fury will be an option for them very soon. Would expect to see the Gilgamesh start to rotate over, and at level 11, that's going to be a very scary sight. Potential to get a pick here though if they're able to close the gap. Mystic Rush used, the root going to come out as well, needs a little bit more, and finally 12 Gauge gets to punish this Bakasura for roaming around in the jungle. Pretty big pickup for them there, narrows the gap between these junglers.
Ultimate coming out from Shark, trying to find every hit to connect onto Necrogue. He wants to get this kill. He's dancing under tower, but he's going to start backing as well. 12 Gauge is here, but in comes Horrific. He's going to get the drop kick and clean up the kill onto Necrogue, finding himself level 11. 8.5 minutes in. This solo laner making the rotation already with a tier 1 down and right. Gold Fury will be the call. Sanders is going to go ahead and rotate, get his burst damage over there, so they don't take too much damage from this Fury overall. We do see Horrific trying to zone the best of his ability. He's going to go back, start tanking up as well. They do spot out Truce trying to come in. Clean pin from Chicken, going to deter him away. With all the monster popped a little early. Pandas secure it just in time before the bird bomb comes in. Truce takes a little bit more damage than he was hoping for, and Horrific will clean him up as well. Soul Laner finds himself 4-0-0.
They get the Gold Fury, but that was a pretty sloppy pull there for Purple Pandas. Gets dropped and then pulled out of the Ganesh ult. Now, I'm a monster, you called it. Used early on that, provided a little bit of an opportunity for Teagarden, but nobody but the Odin in range. Makes it kind of difficult to steal that one away. Certainly doesn't have an ultimate that's very good at it. And just reliant on the bird bomb damage to get it doesn't work out for them now. Bakasura hiding around this rock formation could be looking for a gank onto this Chernobog, and they are going to leap in for the moment. Gets the steal away, however, on the Scorpion, it looks like.
Doing whatever he can to keep Necro from farming and catching up to Shark very easily. Trying to find every opportunity to keep this Teagarden team down as far as possible. And Purple Pandas have been doing one heck of a job staying on top of that Pyromancer Fire Giant both up. Odin in with the cage. They're trying to trap Shark. Hit's not looking good, but the ultimate will be used. But Chicken will be the one to find Truce. So Shark will end up falling to Necrogue as soon as the ultimate comes down. And the ultimate coming out as well. He's going to go over towards Horrific, who decides he's going to run away instead of staying nearby, just in case other members are coming over. Necrogue finds himself out safely with the use of his ult.
That's about the best case scenario there for the Odin, is to look at this Chiron, the one that's affected most by the ultimate, and it works out for them despite sacrificing their life, but you certainly like to have that trade out of the support for that ADC. It's going to always favor whoever got the ADC, and in this case, it was Teagarden. Talking about a gank though, there could be one over here on this Gilgamesh who's getting pretty low.
Low and in the wrong end of the jungle. The Bats of Hell is used to try and secure the kill, the leap. He doesn't get it, but 12 Gauge will be there to clean the kill up. And now we see Purple Pandas. They're in a bit of a tight spot. I'm a monster. Does quite a bit of damage, though. Crush just off the mark. Supernova used in return. And in comes the Odin, trying to find any sort of route possible. And Sanders, he's doing everything he can. Aegis is forced. They've turned on to him. The kill. Fizz finds one as well. Purple Panda's 3 members fall. Punishment for Horrific's positioning. And Chicken comes in and just gives 12 Gauge double kill in a 4v1. The Pyromancer will go the way of Teagarden absolutely free.
Huge play there for T-Garden, able to pick up and punish that over-rotation from Purple Pandas into the right side jungle, just too deep for this Gilgamesh to get out. And then Chicken kind of gives them a freebie at the end, jumps in into what's a 1v4, gives them a free one, and the Pyromancer has really solidified their comeback into this game. The gold pretty much non-existent at this point between the two, and we see a huge switch around in XP, actually favoring T-Garden. Now, that is exactly what we need to see from them, being able to finally punish an overextension from this Purple Panda squad.
Kills are almost evened out after that fight. 8-7. Purple Panda still a little bit ahead, but the gold lead favoring T-Garden by only about 3 to 400. So nothing crazy at the moment. 12.5 minutes in. One tower down for T-Garden. And so far, none for Purple Pandas have been returned. These fights getting more and more interesting as the game goes on. And both teams just keep looking for opportunity after opportunity. And we already see in dual lane, Necrogue, these autos are punishing Shark, who can barely return any damage. And that's just a couple of bows online versus a full stack Transcendence and Aussie.
Yeah, the bows build is pretty strong if you didn't know, Vengeance, and Chernobog's going to make good use of it. Having that attack speed in the kit allows them to really utilize that Silver Branch once it's online. But Gank coming out here on to the Ravana, and it looks like they're going to fall down as Horrific's able to put them in the wall and put them down.
Out there from Chicken and Fury tried getting some damage off, but it was not enough to stop anything. And with 3 members roaming together from Purple Pandas, it's going to be hard for T-Garden to contest anything against them. Going to force this wave a little closer to the tier 2 tower. Back off, try and find what they can. Fortunately, there's not a whole lot left on this right-hand side of the map for them to do. So instead, they're going to find time to rotate while Fury is busy. And this could spell trouble for Viz. They are going to go ahead and do the Scorpion, get the enhanced buffs back onto their side of the map yet again. They're still waiting out time as the Oni Fury getting ready to spawn in. Purple Pandas have moved towards this left-hand side of the map. Oracles standing tall still as well. They're going to go ahead and take those down and most likely prepare themselves to be able to do this Oni Fury, because Fire Giant, the only other objective on the map currently, is not going to be that easy to simply take down.
Purple Pandas do have a ward on it, so they certainly will be looking at this Oni Fury, and that will in itself give them a little bit of extra pressure if they're able to get it. But T-Garden are around the objective. This Chiron could be caught out if they're able to get eyes on it. Instead, looks like Odin's going to pull the aggro for the moment, drops it back down, and Purple Pandas are near enough that they want to walk in and get eyes on it.
Well, Purple Pandas thankfully having that Oracle Vision, not going to let T-Garden able to walk in and do it for free. They do have a ward on it, however, so if Purple Pandas themselves try to do it, they will be spotted out as well. And on this left lane, these hunters just keep trying to go back and forth, waiting for the team just to get ready for the Oni Fury. And it looks like with Horrific here, Purple Pandas may actually be getting more aggressive to this left side. They want this Oni Fury to go down soon. They're just going to have to wait for the remaining teammates to rotate over. We do see Shark go into the jungle for a little bit, come back out, but it looks like this may be the call to go ahead and get this Oni Fury started. And with Horrific here, he's going to try and do all the zoning he can. Fury is here as well, however, so we may instead end up seeing a fight break out. The only member not here between these two teams is going to be Chicken, coming out of base at the moment, so he's going to have to hurry his way over to help his team. This is a 5v4 if T-Garden want to take this fight.
T-Garden should try to get this before the Bakasaur gets here, which has been pretty instrumental in starting to get this crit build online, which is a little odd, but it will do a lot of damage to those carries if they're able to find it. A little bit of dancing still happening between these two teams. However, Ganesh starting the push and Gilgamesh into the wall.
Cruz getting stunned for a little bit, and out comes the ultimate from Chicken. Sanders will find the kill onto Truce. The leap over. They're trying to see who else they can find. Necrogue having to dash away, but the Dark Killer traps him, so he's going to have to ult his way out for safety for the time being. Unfortunately, anywhere he lands is trouble. The Crush does some damage. Aegis gets him away for a little bit, but Viz finds Steve in the meantime. Purple Pandas, they could be in trouble. Horrific trying to find weak out. Monster use does not find the mark. Necrogue takes one down. Chicken trades him out immediately. Finds 12 gauge. Viz gets a double kill onto Shark. It's just the jungle and mid versus 2. And the third who just respawned Truce may be able to find his way over in time. Sanders in a lot of trouble. The positioning not too good. Is he going to fall? The teleport out just in time. And coming back is Chicken the Crush. They're waiting on the Aegis. Fury instead falls, but Miz trades him out immediately. All left standing from this fight are the mids. Truce coming back to the Fury after respawning. And Sanders, he may be able to throw a crush out, but he's going to have to back for safety and health. And honestly, with this being a soul, Teagarden may find themselves an Oni Fury here.
Looks like they want to pick it up, and if they're able to get this done pretty quickly, could steal it away. Though Scylla, still ever present, is going to force them off and make them look at the oracles. But going back to that fight, Vengeance, it worked out pretty even, and that kind of favors Teagarden at this point to be able to keep up these fights and work their way back into it. But hold on, Olden used, I'm a monster used, but Viz going to put down the Scylla. Sanders not able to find value on that ultimate.
Very interesting decision making coming out of Sanders. Instead of backing and healing back up, to come in with so little health and is punished for it by the support in mid of Teagarden. Purple Pandas, no one gets the objective, but Teagarden, they win the fight.
They do. Picking up the Scylla, very big for them. And now they have the advantage in numbers as well, as Scylla down for 14. However, they aren't looking towards any of these objectives just yet. Pyromancer could be one that they could try to strip away here for themselves. However, not going to be the case, but this does give us a little bit of time to look at where these builds are at. And we see this Odin going into a very health-centric build with the Shoguns to help out the double Hunter comp. This Odin struggled a little bit, but this could be a good build for them.
We see Fury in a little bit of trouble. The ultimate comes out of Chicken to get himself a little bit of a damage advantage against this Amazon's Bats of Hell use counter, and in comes the Wind Smash from the Blink. Horrific. We'll keep him in there for a little bit longer, but he's still alive. Finally taken down. And over on this left-hand side, we see a fight breaking out. Purple Pandas take down the Oni Fury. The contest from Teagarden was there, but not good enough. Instead, we're going to try and continue the fight. Chicken on the back line, finding some incredible crits. We find Viz having to use the Sapphire and get out immediately. The Odin cages defensively instead of for his team to attack. And Purple Pandas, they want to chase, but this may be too little too far for them to get any more kills.
Able to strip away the Gold Fury, though, and that's very big for them to start to open things up once again. And getting down this mid tower will open up the map even more for them. Chicken looking pretty scary with this crit online to the backliners. Doesn't have as good of a shred onto the tanks, and there is decent amount of frontlining out of this Teagarden, not in the typical way, but you do of course have the Camazotz, which is very good at diving, the Ravana that's going to be in the backline a lot as well, and this Odin. So surprising not to see them look towards that Kins a little bit to take down these health building targets that we see a lot of, especially out of the Odin like we mentioned earlier. But so far it's working out for this Bakasora all the same, and Purple Pandas are sitting in a fairly decent spot, especially with this late game comp starting to get online.
Teagarden, it didn't look too good at the start, but over time they've made their way back and have started showing that they still have the ability to contest and possibly win this game. And this is the all-important one for them. It's do or die, keep on or be shut out. Purple Panda's ADC getting heavily damaged here from Necro, doing a bunch of chunk damage, even enforcing the ultimate out just to try and get some kind of return poke. A little bit of damage here and there, but nothing too much to worry about for him. We'll finish clearing the wave back out over in mid. There may be a trap in place. Truce going around the corner. Instead, he's going to go towards his own side of the jungle. We see Sanders and Steve just sitting around these neutrals, going back towards their lane. 4 towers standing for Teagarden, all 6 still for Purple Pandas, and they are very healthy towers at that. That's got something to say for their decision making and timing on fights, because no one has been able to really push these towers.
Has worked out really well for Purple Pandas around these objectives, and it's been a lot of the warding game, just having the heads up to know when the timers are, to be there and make sure that it doesn't open up opportunities for Teagarden. The reverse flip side of that, though, is if Teagarden can convincingly win a fight and start to work down these towers, there's a whole lot of gold for them. So if they can really win one, get a lot of these towers down, they're able to bring that back towards their way, likely depending on what the gold lead looks like at the time. But Purple Pandas, noticing that not everyone is around for Tea Garden, are pulling this Fire Giant.
Nope, the ADC is the only one's not really here. The jungle, the Tea Garden, sitting over in mid as well, but they're not able to really do too much damage to this Fire Giant without Shark being there. They do have Chicken who could do some, but with Tea Garden showing their presence, it's not that easy to pull. They're going to do a little bit more of a dance. We do see Gungnir being channeled, however, it's silenced out immediately by Steve. There's no chance for any CC to be applied. And this is very interesting to see so many few members really doing this dance instead of looking across the map, because this tier 1 tower on left, even though Necrogue has been throwing out more damage to Shark than he has been taking in return, this tower is almost ready to fall, and we start seeing a little bit of engagement over near fire. Both teams. It's interesting that these guys are so willing to do this elongate dance, because the gold, if Tea Gardens separate for a moment to farm and Purple Pandas don't, the gold shrinks.
It does. The other benefit, though, to Tea Garden is realistically, if you can keep the Chiron in the left lane and a fight does break out, you can just ult over with this Chernabog to make things a numbers advantage for yourself. But Fire Giant going to be pulled here by Tea Garden, who is shredding it down with the soul.
Oh, the crush comes out with the Chicken, will clean up Truce. The own ultimate used Supernova as well. The Dharmic Pillars come out trying to find any more damage onto Viz, who is under half health at the moment, but they're not able to really chase him down. So instead, we're going to be looking at 12 gauge, who decided to root Steve. The knockup was in return. A Fury, one long out of position. Gonna be forced an awkward situation. I'm a monster off the mark completely. Fury's gonna have an opportunity to run all the way out. Missing the bats though, no healing applied. The root, the crush, Chicken with the final hit, taking down the Camazotz. 2 for none in this engagement. This has opened up Fire Giant for Purple Pandas. They're going to do everything they possibly can, and with Chicken coming back in, it's definitely going to start falling, especially with that Frenzy Pop.
Oh, the Muscle Shark wins out the 1v1 onto the Chernabog, and that is huge, allowing them to take off the Fire Giant and now have it on all 5 members, especially the also important ADC, to take down these objectives. For Tea Garden there, it was just a split fight. It looked like Soul wanted to stay on the Fire Giant and take it down, but the rest of the team wanted to fight, and that just made the damage not there and available for them with inside that fight choice. Now, Purple Pandas are going to work down this right side. They have a 30-second timer on this Chernabog. They could look to push down a couple more towers.
Tier 2 in right falls mid. Tier 2 will likely fall as well to Chicken. 12 gauge is there to contest, but I don't think he realizes that he's being completely rotated on. He's put himself in an awkward situation. The crush comes out. The immunity just lasting long enough to take that away, but I'm a monster connects. Chicken cleans up 12 gauge. Supernova comes out and finds some damage, but not enough to kill. Fury rotating in and use the Bats out of hell to get back under the Phoenix. Truce gonna use his own ultimate, zone Purple Pandas away from each other, unable to help during any sort of a fight. The Bird Bomb does not hit the mark. The Dharmic Pillars, the crush, the Marksman shot does finish off Truce from Shark. He uses the ultimate as well, trying to find all poke he can. Horrific, leaping in, trying to find Viz, unable to succeed. However, we see Chicken has engaged into one. Shark hits a double kill onto Fury. This leaves Viz and Necrogue up all alone. The mid Phoenix does finally fall. And Purple Pandas with this Fire Giant, they look like they wanted to, for a brief moment, possibly end this game, but instead decide they're going to clean up the last tier 2 on this left-hand side and possibly look at a Phoenix or go for the Gold Fury.
Certainly the potential to end there just because of this AA comp and the Scylla damage, but they played a little bit safer, not wanting to throw anything away. It would be pretty difficult though, however, for them to throw away this large of a lead. Getting down to T2, and this Gold Fury is going to open up about a 13 to 14k difference between these two teams, and it's looking all Purple Pandas. This comp is online. The objectives play has been there for them as well. Now it's just down to them to make this final siege, and it should be coming pretty shortly.
Well, they have backed. They're spending their gold, regrouping, making their decision on what they want to push. Still plenty of time to go left on this Fire Giant standing on them. It looks like left lane may be the way they decide to go. Chicken yet again going towards this right side may be sent on a split push mission, especially with Fury. showing a little bit of presence, clearing some waves, but the Pyromancer is up. This is a possible objective for either team to take away, get some gold up. But oh my goodness, we already see Sanders and Steve so far up on this left-hand side. And look how split Tea Garden are. They're not even backing yet. There's only 2 members here, the mid and ADC. If Purple Pandas recognize this and go in, this left-hand Phoenix is free, possibly with a couple kills. They have already entered in. It's already going to be absolutely free. The damage more than enough. Pass out of Hell was forced. Fury finding himself in an unfavorable fight. Purple Pandas.
Oh, he's dead.
Grouping with their team, and oh, the ultimate from Chicken secures the kill onto Fury. Comes the rest of his team. The right-hand Phoenix is the call. It's going to fall down, and with 4 members standing for Tea Garden, Purple Pandas are looking to end game number 3 and take this finals series. Playing around in the Titan room, dancing back and forth. Quite a bit of poke falling onto Sanders, however, stepping too far up without his tanks. 30 seconds left on Fury. And Pandas, the frenzy is popped. Armor pillars as well. They're finding all the damage they can onto this Titan. Crush comes out. They're doing everything they can. The Necro will fall to Shark. The Supernova coming out trying to find a return kill. Winds of Moss come out as well. The Titan with Alma Monster will fall just in time. Purple Pandas 28 minutes in. Take game number 3, the series, and are your Savage Finals champions.
Fantastic job there by Purple Pandas to take this comp and execute it well. Pressure out of the jungle once again. Chickens had a huge set for themselves. All these games, they've been able to find pressure, certainly in the late game for this team. And the solo laner, Horrific, really steps up in this game. The Gilgamesh, quite impactful to put pressure on this back line. And Tea Garden just could not find a way to cohesively deal with things. It looked like this Camazot's pick was just never present when they needed it to be for the team. And the Odin pick didn't really work out either. The coordination wasn't there within the ecosystem of the team fights. Shoutouts to Purple Pandas, though. They certainly deserved this victory, and they made it look very convincing.
Congratulations to Purple Pandas for their hard-fought victory, finding the 3-0. But to break down this set overall and how Purple Pandas managed to find this win, we've got Surge and Blur on the desk for you guys one last time.
Thank you, Vengeance. Purple Pandas crossing their T's and dotting their I's this game. They won this in a pretty decently clean sweep of this last game here. I don't even think they lost a tower or even got a tower past half HP there for the entire game. They took down all the Phoenixes. They made sure they had a Fire Giant buff. They made sure there was nothing left for them to take before they finally made their push into the Titan room. Blur, what are your kind of thoughts on how the Pandas ramped up as the set went on?
This felt like the last match just kind of felt, especially the latter half of it, felt like almost like the victory lap, just jogging it home at the end. It felt a little bit like, I don't want to say there's like mental checkouts from the side of Tea Gardens, but when we see that the enemy team's sieging down the left-hand side and you've got members halfway up the other lanes looking to try and just push out, it feels like one of those, well, we just got to get something. It's just, I'm just going to go farm because I need it to get back kind of thing. It's really hard, especially after you go from game 1 of, they're going to hammer us hard early, but we'll come back and we'll win game 1 with a hard fit. And we just lost Fire Giant and the game's over like 5 minutes after that. So then game 2, right. They're going to, let's just flip the script, try a more cohesive comp, go for picks, play that pick for pick style. And then just get absolutely blown out by Akali and just run at for the entire game. To then, right, let's go full early and have it backfire on you. It feels like just that complete whatever anything tried, Purple Pandas had their number, and that's an incredible thing to be able to do. 3 games, 3 different play styles, to be able to come in and say, we will just beat you at this game is so mentally taxing to try and fight into. And credit where credit's due, 12 gauge looking like a really, really solid way of coming back in. Same for Viz in the mid lane. These two had their moments where they were really starting to drive home that there could be a chance for them to get back in. Unfortunately, it was sort of a flash in the pan moment. We never saw that be a, hey, Viz is playing really, really well. Why don't we play around them? 12 gauge is popping off. Can we find a way to play through those? And that just meant that when we saw 12 gauge go in to try and dive, or the Truths go in to try and dive, they immediately just got blown up. Rago's chicken was able to do whatever the hell they wanted for the entire game. And it was so difficult to see that, especially with the fact that, like you said, there was such a momentum going through. It was just Purple Pandas going, let's just play this. We know we can play this really well.
Yeah, I definitely hard agree with everything you just went through. It also seemed as though the side lanes for T-Guard just couldn't get anything going. Worse, like 12 gauge and Viz, they had again those moments, so those quick flashes of brilliance and ways to get back into the game. But at that point, just the soul lane and dual lane just weren't able to rotate or do anything to make that a big difference. Whereas even though 12 gauge was 5-1 at one point, that in their own jungle, Purple Pandas decides to invade and sends, I think, 4 people just to put 12 gauge in the ground and make sure that there's no way that a lead can continue to build on anybody on Tea Garden. So that was, if anything, that was just a really strong choice by Purple Pandas to just make sure that as soon as there's a problem player, you put them in the ground, make sure there's no way they can keep going.
Indeed, and then it puts that pressure on, is it 12 gauge getting in their own head of, can they go in to follow up if they're being focused so much? And it was also really awkward. I feel I kind of get what Fury was going for with this Camazot's build. The Death Soul makes sense. You want a lot of sustain. But then Berserker Shield, the Stone Cutting, it never felt like a cohesive kind of build, or this frontliney build, or something that dives the backline really effectively. It just felt like a hodgepodge of half-baked ideas coming through for a build. And sort of similar with the Truths, we saw Shogun's Kusaris, we saw lots of health being built, and it's like, let's just go back to the basics. You've got sovereignty, Thebes, get tanky, be a frontline for the team, and support through on those side of things, because they don't have the traditional supports. They need something traditional to be a frontline or a wall to absorb a lot of the damage going through, because otherwise you just end up with the game situations that we saw here.
Yeah, and it seemed as if almost as though they had an idea initially for what they were trying to do in that game, and then as it went on, they tried to change what they were trying to do to adjust, but their builds didn't really reflect it too well, and it just ended up being a very lukewarm build path for both of the frontliners, which normally doesn't end too well if you're not full tank or full damage, especially for the solo side. But at the end of the day, T-Garden did end up making their way to the finals. They're going to take second place with them. So big congratulations to T-Garden, and even bigger congratulations to Purple Pandas for being the Savage Division winners for this season of the Albion Giants League. There should be one more match coming up later tonight, though, so don't go away too far. That should be coming up really soon here at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm with you today with a Supersonic Blur. Thank you for watching us. I'd like to thank the people in the chairs, Bastion and Vengeance, and then also Ted, our production guy. Have a good night, everyone.